I love to see the towns passing by and to ride these rails neath God's blue sky. Let me travel this land from the mountains to the sea, 'cause that's the life I believe He meant for me. And when I'm gone and at my grave you stand, say God called home your rambling man.
Welcome to Ramblin' Man Podcast, episode number 180. This is part 2 of 2 of my interview with Emma and Lauren Oxford about art and music. If you've not yet listened to part 1, you might want to do that before you get into this episode. If you want to learn more about Emma and Lauren, be sure to give Emma a follow on Instagram, and I'm going to issue an apology. I wasn't making fun of her username. I was making fun of my clunky ass for having to pronounce it and spell it. It was more about me than I'm not poking fun. It's actually a great handle on Instagram. It's Minimalist Meow, spelled exactly how it sounds. And then Lauren Oxford Music, spelled exactly how it sounds. Make sure you give them both a follow, and I appreciate them for coming on. Please enjoy this episode, part 2 of 2 with Emma and Lauren. Sponsor this week is Feral Giant. Feral Giant is a graphic design, illustration, and social media consultation company based here in Knoxville, Tennessee. Though they do work for clients big and small all over the country, all over the globe, in fact. But they also do photography, videography, video editing, and audio editing, website design, SEO, writing, content development. Hell, they'll babysit your kids if it nets them money. So make sure you give them a follow on social media on either Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or LinkedIn at Feral Giant. And be sure to give them an email today and hire them for your next project. Without much further ado, here's the episode. Okay, so you get out of college.
Well, before I get out of college, I need to talk about how I got kind of more into music.
Okay.
While I was in college.
Okay, so the music came. I actually had down what was the point where you decided you wanted to pursue music more seriously? Which
a couple years ago, but anyway.
I'm still waiting on that moment. Yeah. Sorry.
I was I mentioned earlier that Carson Newman had an LGBTQ student support group. We had to meet off campus. There was like a house church, like an Episcopal Lutheran church called St. Barnabas. And it was about a 15-minute walk from campus, but we would meet there. There were two like really nice ladies who like worked at the church, and would like, one of them, Ray, would like cook this giant meal for us, and like all these queers would come from Carson Newman. We would just sit down and we would have different topics we would talk about, or we would like have event night or just something like that. So I did that freshman year, and then at the beginning of sophomore year, the other woman, Annie, she and her husband Edward were going to do like a back to school bash at their house on Douglas Lake. So all the queer Carson Newman kids came there and just like hung out, ate food, talked, caught up about our summers. Annie's husband, Edward, is a banjo player. And he had been playing music with a woman named Kat Faber, who played mandolin and was a songwriter.
I think I recognize that.
Yeah.
So I also used to run a music website called Knox Bands in like the early to mid 2000s. So I also have all these connections with musicians.
Yeah.
So there are some that I'm like, oh yeah, I think
so
I
Edward Wing is the banjo player, and then Kat Faber is the mandolinist. But they would like meet up at the local barber shop in Jefferson City and like play music together. And Kat, she's kind of a Renaissance woman, but she has also built 3 canoes. Just these big wooden, out of wood, not fiberglass or anything. Gorgeous canoes. And she brought her canoes because she lived kind of in the same area. And so her canoes were there for students to take out onto the lake. And I'd picked up a ukulele in high school just because that was the quirky manic pixie dream girl thing to do. If you were a quirked up white girl, you had to have a ukulele. So I did. And I brought it because I was like, oh, sitting by the lake with a ukulele. Isn't that cute? So I brought my ukulele and I went into the house to get some food and I heard Ed and Kat playing music. And I went in there and I was like, oh, this is cool. Can I like play with y'all? And they were like, yeah, sure. Like we're in this key. It's these chords. And I was like, okay, I'll play along. So I was playing music with them and I was having fun. And they were like, we've been meeting at the barbershop, but I think we're going to start meeting at the Jefferson County Public Library on whatever this morning if you want to come play music with us. And I was like, yeah, sure. So I started playing music with them, and over like the next couple months or so, Kat knew a fiddler and her partner who played the flute, and they started practicing with us, Joyce and Rex. And then Ed knew a guy who played 12-string guitar, and he started practicing with us too. And we kind of like became a band. We were called Yonder and Back. I was the youngest person in the band by about 25, 30 years. It was like all these boomers and me. And I loved it because I was always like friends with adults and didn't really like kids my age because I wasn't raised to be in touch with the media. Like, have you seen the meme of, it's a meme at this point, but it's an Onion article, and it's a dad giving his daughter like a Talking Heads album, and it's like dad ensuring daughter will be forever out of touch with media her age. That was me. So I started playing music with them, and I became really close with Kat. Her husband, Kip Wheeler, was one of my English professors too.
Okay.
So this was in 2015, 2016, when Pokemon Go happened in 2016. Kat was already into walking, and she was like, now I have all these cute little critters that I can catch on my phone. We played so much Pokemon Go together. This is like a 53-year-old woman and me walking around campus just catching our Pokemon. She has no former knowledge of Pokemon. She doesn't know how to pronounce anything. She's like, oh, look at this cute little one.
Full disclosure, I still play Pokemon Go, like to this day.
It's still a thing?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
She's level 42.
Okay,
Anyway, I got really close with Kat, and my freshman year of college, I was a hot mess. And the same kind of went for sophomore year. I'd like never really lived alone. I was like doing a lot of adjusting. There was a lot of kind of processing of childhood trauma, but also like deconstructing the faith that I had been raised in, realizing my political views were different, realizing that I was a lesbian. Like all of these things were happening.
Oh, while you were huffing photography
Dark room.
chemicals.
Yeah,
Darkroom
and inhaling
chemicals.
that fixer, all while taking 18 credit hours with 2 jobs and like president of 2 or 3 different clubs. I genuinely
Holy
don't
moly.
know how I lived. I ran on like 4 hours of sleep every night, and I don't even drink coffee or do caffeine. Anyway,
Oh, my God.
but Kat and I became really close, and she was like, so you might be interested in this, but I am actually part of this music community called Filk, like folk, but with an I. Filk grew out of science fiction and fantasy conventions in the mid-20th century.
Really?
It is music in the acoustic and folk tradition that grew out of what was predominantly like the literary side of sci-fi fantasy. But now, you know, people write songs about like Lord of the Rings and Star Trek and Star Wars and space exploration and computers and cats and dinosaurs. And Filk is kind of a genre, but just as much or even more so, Filk is a community.
Okay.
So if you come to Filks and you play songs in a Filk circle, you are a Filker, even if you're not necessarily writing about
Sorry.
all of these same things.
You mother filker.
Yeah. It's a fun little thing.
Sorry.
So Kat told me about this, and I was like, I mean, I grew up, I was such a little dork, such a nerd, such a geek, watching like Doctor Who and Star Trek and Star Wars and like all of these things. And I was like, yeah, this sounds awesome. And I went to like a little house filk, which is not like a convention. It's just a gathering that someone has in their home with Kat in, I think, the winter of 2015, like December 2015 in Atlanta. Really liked it. And I wanted to go to like a convention. And there was one coming up in January in Atlanta called GAFILK that Kat goes to every year. And I was like,
That's amazing.
GA, like Georgia Filk, GAFILK.
Oh, I was thinking like gefilte fish. Like, like that's where my brain goes. Like
It's Georgia
gefilte.
Filk, essentially.
Georgia Filk.
But I went to that with Kat and I loved it. And I was like, oh, this is great. Because so Filk is, a problem is that it is what we say graying. It's a lot of boomers and older
Yeah.
people. And there's not a lot of young blood coming into it. So here I am, 20 years old, like getting into this. I hadn't really been writing songs. I was still very much into writing poetry and just playing music. But I really, through Filk, that is when I started songwriting. That's when I started, instead of writing kind of free verse poetry, which is mostly what I did about like my trauma. There was another convention that happened in April of 2016 in Ontario, Canada, called Filk Ontario, and
They're very clever with their name.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yes.
sorry,
Yes.
sorry. No, I mean,
they had a songwriting contest, and the theme was pets in space. And so I wrote a song about like my childhood cat who like disappeared, and I did it at the songwriting contest, and I got, I think, second place. And I was like,
Holy crap!
oh, I'm not bad at this. I'm just going to keep doing this. So that's kind of how I started writing songs. I was like a sophomore in college. I started going to Filks with Kat. I was going to band practice for a band I was now in like once a week. And there was also this cafe in downtown Jefferson City called The Creek. And we started, Yonder and Back started hosting this kind of, it was a combination old time jam and open mic night. So like people would essentially get up on stage and like play/sing a tune, and everyone just sitting in the audience would like play along with them.
Okay.
So it was kind of a jam, but like you were kind of like, you walked up on stage to like lead your individual thing. So I was playing a lot of music. I was practicing a lot. I was like getting really into Filk. I was starting to write songs. That's kind of when music really started being a thing that I was pursuing. It was mostly just like, I was like playing the ukulele, and then I had a really cheap guitar that I had from my like beginning guitar semester class in high school, and I would like play the guitar sometimes. And then Edward and Annie, I think for Christmas or my birthday, they got me a mandolin. So I like started teaching myself to play the mandolin. And then when I went to Filk, Ontario in 2017, there was a beautiful handmade banjo there, and everything's cheaper in Canada than it is in the States. So I bought a banjo, and I taught myself to play the banjo. Not well. So I kind of started picking up all these stringed instruments. Like I got an auto harp and I got a dulcimer, and my whole thing was like, I won't play any of these instruments well, but I will be able to switch between them.
Okay.
And that will be impressive and kind of be my ta-da
Gimmick.
Yeah, my little gimmick. So I started doing that in the band, and I got more into Filk. I got more into songwriting. And at the beginning of it, I was like, okay, this is what Filk is. It's about, like, I need to write songs about, like, Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter, or back before we canceled J.K. Rowling for being a piece of shit. So I was like, songwriting's cool. I like this. And then I started branching out and just, like, writing more folk songs.
Okay.
Because the poetry that I wrote was always it was just like, I couldn't go to therapy in middle and high school, so I just wrote poetry to like process all my shit.
Can I interject with
Yeah.
a question? Were there people that you were listening to that were influencing your writing?
All the time.
Okay. Okay.
I would
that
say
were bigger names or even smaller local people, like.
I mean, I would say that my number one hobby, the thing that I spend the most time doing, the thing that I'm most passionate about, is listening to music.
Okay.
Actively listening, just like finding new artists to listen to, or like listening to albums of artists I love. I got really into Laura Marling.
Yeah.
She is one of my biggest musical influences because, of course, Joni is one of her biggest influences. And, like, obviously, any female singer-songwriter is going to cite Joni Mitchell as an influence. Like, that's just, if you're in folk and you're writing songs and you're a woman, like, it's Joni. Because she also does all those cool open tunings. And I've always, like, really had an appreciation for jazz. I don't know enough of the theory to understand it, but I've always just loved the colors in jazz and the voicings of the chords and just how it's a lot more compelling to me. And so I've always kind of wanted to incorporate those sounds into my music. And Joni has a lot of jazz stuff that people kind of write off, and it's really good, actually.
Joni is also a hell of a guitar player and doesn't get enough credit
Exactly.
for being a hell of a guitar player.
And the only reason she became a musician was because she wanted to finance her career as a fine artist. She's a painter. She considered
world.
herself first and foremost a painter and a fine artist, and she did the music. She did folk music to make money to be an artist, which, like, crazy. The 70s were a time. I'm trying to think of music I was really into in college.
Joan Shelley.
I was really into Joan Shelley. I love Joan Shelley. I've seen her. I saw her at Boyd's Jig and Reel, and my dad and I saw her, I think, at the Basement in Nashville.
She played...
She played Big Ears a couple years ago.
The first time I ever saw her was when Dogwood Arts was still doing Rhythm and Blooms
Oh,
on the
wow.
Market Square.
Yeah.
I saw her in the Square Room perform. She's unbelievable.
She's so good.
Yeah. I was trying to look
I
up.
hope she never finds this podcast because I have such a massive crush on her, and I made like such... I embarrassed myself when she played at the Jig and Reel. I was like a sophomore in college, very mentally unstable, with like a lot of issues, and I just like walked up to her after and was like crying, just like, your music means so much to me. I probably like scared her because the folk music world doesn't really have fans like that.
I was looking up because I always think it's Laura Marling. There's a band that I like that has one kind of lead guy that he has a songwriter wife, but it's Marissa Nadler.
Marissa Nadler, yeah.
Nadler. His name is Ryan Walsh. His band is Hallelujah the Hills. They're really good. I follow him on Twitter, and we will chat every once in a while on Twitter. And I always think, he's married to Laura Marling. No, it's Melissa. It's so hilarious that the two of them are the exact same. And I looked her up. I was like, wait, no, that's Ryan's wife. No, that's not Ryan's wife. Damn it. I got it wrong. Okay. Because she's British.
Yes,
Laura Marling.
she is.
Yeah, I don't think Marissa
She's
Nadler
coming out with
is.
a new album in October, and it's going to destroy me, and I'm so ready. Anyway, I love crying to music. But in college, I got really into folk. Like, before I was into other stuff, but, like, I got into folk.
So because of your all's age, I am going to ask about somebody because I heard somebody referred to recently, and they're like, oh, yeah, I remember her like she was nothing, this artist that I love. And I was like, no, she was not nothing. She was big, and it's Feist.
Oh, I love Feist.
So somebody referred to her like, oh, she did that one song. I was like, oh, no.
She did some fantastic
I
albums.
feel like she had a moment in the kind of aughts indie scene that most
Yeah.
people remember her for.
But she's been consistently putting out
she had
incredible music.
hit songs before 1, 2, 3, 4. And I love her. I've still never
Yeah.
seen her live. It kind of drives me nuts. I've never seen her live.
Her most recent album, Multitudes, is really good.
Yeah. Actually, the band she was in, a band that there needs to
Broken
be
Social Scene?
there needs to be a documentary on them because so many bands came out of them.
Yeah.
They did You Forget It and People at the aforementioned Orange Peel. And I went and saw it. And they did not do the one problematic song on that.
That you talked about on the episode with Esther.
Did I? No, did I really?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
You were like, oh, I want to share this album with you, but then I got to the last track and
Yeah.
there's a slur in it, and now I don't know if I can.
That album, minus that one track, that album is perfect. Minus that one track. It is weird listening to it now and be like, why did you do this? This was like not that long ago. What are you all doing? If you're talking about cigarettes, maybe, but you ain't British.
They're
man.
Canadian.
You're Canadian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like Feist. I mean, I could sit here and talk about
But it
music
was
I
weird
love
to me that
for a long
reading
time.
something today, like almost like casting her aside. I was like, you were
No.
out of your mind. Like,
she's still
Yeah.
making such good music. Like,
Yeah.
she's great. Anais Mitchell
oh,
is a really big influence.
I s-
Aoife O'Donovan.
I saw Anais Mitchell do Hadestown on Broadway, where Suttrie's is. It used to be Morlock Music, and she was there. And I actually befriended her piano player, Rachel Reese, Ries, and I'm like friends with her. Like, and she's a hell of a performer too,
Yeah.
Rachel Reese. She goes by Her Crooked Heart now. But I saw Anais there, me and 40 other people. Seeing her do Hadestown, me and my buddy Paige standing in the
so
back,
cool.
sweating to death. It was so hot in there. And I saw, who was the other one you mentioned? You said she's in I'm With Her with Sarah.
Oh, Aoife O'Donovan.
I saw I'm With Her at the Bijou.
Man,
Yeah,
I
and
wanted
it was
to go to that
great.
show so
I've
bad.
seen Sarah Watkins. I started running through it. The last time I saw Nickel Creek, I was like, I have seen Sean, I think 4 times. I've seen her like 7 or 8 times. And I've seen Chris Thiele perform 20-something times. Because I've seen him perform in different iterations.
iterations, yeah.
He is about to do a solo show at Rabbit Rabbit, which seems super weird. Like him doing an outside show solo seems very odd. And it's like in a cold month, like March or something. I'm like, what do you do? Asheville will be cold in March.
Yeah.
Like, that's good. You're all going to have fire pits around for us to... Me in my winter shorts hanging out.
I was just gonna say I have seen you show up to an Illustrator meetup in a pair of shorts in February, but
Oh, yeah. I call them winter shorts. Not kidding.
Winter shorts.
Winter shorts. Okay. So you're
Anyway,
playing with them. You're going to these things.
Yeah,
the
I'm
film-
starting to take songwriting
What's your main
more
instrument?
seriously.
What's the main one you're playing?
mostly guitar
Okay.
and
Acoustic?
acoustic guitar. I really need to take guitar lessons and actually get some fundamentals down, because kind of the way that I've cheated it is I just put my guitar in a random open tuning, and then my method is fuck around and find out.
Okay.
I just make shapes on the fretboard and just write down what the shape is, and then I have to reverse engineer it later, put the notes in, and figure out what the actual chord is, and it's like a E minor 11, and I'm like, I don't know what the fuck that is, but
Actually acknowledge. Keep talking. I'm just going to go. I have something to show. Like,
Okay.
Just keep talking.
okay, I'm gonna keep talking. I mostly play guitar, and it's just because it's kind of the instrument to accompany yourself with if you're a solo performer. Because if you're a solo performer, you need something that has a good bass presence. Because if you're just up there with a ukulele or you're up there with the banjo, like unless you're really good at it, like you just need kind of some grounding in the sound. Oh, that's an old banjo.
oh, it's dusty.
Yeah, sorry. We pulled that. We had a
2
cousin-
strings.
A cousin. It was my dad's first cousin pass away, and he found that. And it turns out, like you can see. I think it's on the back, on the top, the name, and it turns out it's like a
Monogram.
instructional banjo from like early 1900s.
Did
Yeah.
it have 4 strings at one point?
It's got 5.
Yeah, there's the missing.
And sorry,
Here,
it's dusty.
fifth string.
I told him, I was like, I'm gonna have to do a lot of work to get the dust off that damn thing. But I thought I'd bring that and show because it is so cool.
That's a cool one.
My friend Andrea, that's a good. There's a 2-parter. We bitch a lot on that. If you want to hear me and Andrea go hard in the paint, like Andrea Menendez, she goes by Old City Rambler on Instagram. She's an insane banjo player. So sorry to interrupt. Yeah,
That's okay.
Oh, you
I don't
told
know
me
what I
to
was
look
talking
her
about.
up once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was pulling 8-9 hours in the dark room listening to a lot of albums. So I listened to a lot of music in college. I was road tripping with Kat, driving up to Canada, or driving to Atlanta, or driving to Ohio, driving to Kansas City for all these conventions. So I would like show her music in the car, and
Yeah.
I've like turned her on to a lot of musicians that she really likes now. So it's kind of been like a mutual sharing things.
I will say, Sean Watkins, there's a Nickel Creek song that is the greatest fuck you breakup song called Somebody More Like You. I wish you could find someone your height so you can see eye to eye. Like, it is the most brutal. And one of the times I saw them, I took a friend of mine who had just gotten divorced, and she was literally sitting there listening to lyrics going, oh my God. Oh my God. She was having a moment, and I was like, calm down.
Yeah.
Like,
was this
shut
a
up.
good idea?
This is a very quiet song. Shut up. Like, it was so fun. She was just like, oh my God. It was the funniest thing in the world. But yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
we're talking about, I'm in college. I've got the part-time job at the Standard Banner, and I've got the part-time job as a darkroom assistant. It's my senior year. It's coming up on my my big exhibit that I'm doing with a friend of mine, Rebecca Anderson. It's a 2-person show. So I am like trying to get all my prints in order.
Yeah.
A really cool thing about the Carson Newman photography program was we had a color darkroom, which
That's
is
nuts.
like rare.
Yeah.
We had Flannery got us like a Jobo processor. It's like one of those kind of automated ones.
Yeah.
And part of what I did for my senior show was this kind of experimental, for me, color photograms. A photogram is when you just place objects on the photo
Yeah.
paper instead of using a negative and shine the light on it. But I was doing it with like color chemistry, so I found these kind of translucent colored objects. So like I had one of those like things you have as a kid that's clear and there's slime in it.
Yeah.
And I had like an orange like old perfume bottle, and I had like glitter glue tubes, just a bunch of stuff of different colors, and I did those in the color darkroom. And there was no water heater, or if there was, it was really shitty. And color chemistry, the temperature of everything has to be so precise. So we had a hairdryer. We would have water in a glass beaker, and we would hold the hairdryer to it to heat it. And then if it got too hot, we put it in the freezer for like 20 seconds to cool it down. It was the most jank, like it was crazy. But I was getting ready for my senior show. I was living off campus in a duplex with my friend Catherine, and she would smoke pot and drink a Mick Ultra Tall Boy and sit on the futon next to me and be like, "Hey, you should download Tinder, because I think that would be fun." And I was like, "Okay, I'll appease you." So I downloaded Tinder because the lesbian dating pool at Carson Newman was like,
no.
There was,
Color
like-
me surprised.
there's like a couple of like softball lesbians, but like not really my type. Or like there were people I clocked, but I was like, you're not out to yourself yet, but you will be.
Can I don't think I've ever told this story on here before. So there was a woman I worked with at the News Sentinel. Should I name her? Yeah, I'll name her Kristen. She's awesome. Like 6'1", looks like a model, gorgeous. She had just gotten out of college, out of UT, when I started at the Sentinel, and I was probably mid to late 20s. And I was her designer, so we would talk a lot. And there was one point where I was like, here, since you already mentioned it, I had like 2 pairs of khakis that I wore into work every day. I didn't have pants. I didn't have jeans. And I literally went, "You're young and hip." I was like 28. And I was like, "You're young and hip. Can you help me go pick out jeans?" Like and she was like, "Yeah, I'll totally do that." And I was like, "Cool." Like, and so Easttown Mall was still there at this point. And she called me and she was like, "Hey, so can I bring my girlfriend with me?" I was like, "Yeah, that's totally fine."
Yeah, 2 times the jeans help.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it literally was. I was like, and she was like, "Because, I'm into girls." And I think I said, "I'm not interested in you. I just need to help with jeans, man." I was like, I wasn't hitting on it. This wasn't me asking you out.
That would be the weirdest first date.
Yeah. And so I went and I bought him dinner. Like, I was like, yeah. I was like, I appreciate y'all, like, helping me out. And her partner, Kim, left and was like, well, I went and got the jeans. I went and tried them on. Here's how stupid I was at that point. I tried them on. I was like, yep, they fit. I took them off and they were like, "You didn't want to walk out?" And I was like, "No, you picked them out." So that was fine. Because I don't know shit. It was so silly. It was so silly.
You need your emotional support lesbians to help you buy jeans.
So the next day she came over and she was like, are you a Republican? I was like, no. She's like, Kim really thought you were a Republican.
Oh, no.
I was like, no,
What
no,
kind
no,
of
no,
vibes
no.
were you giving off?
Nothing. I don't think either one of them listen to this. I don't think a lot of people would push back on Kim. God love her, bless her heart. I would say it to her face if she was here. She loves me to death now. But it was just like, it was very much like, oh, I was older and had a lot more experience and was like, actually, she was like, well, I think this. I was like, that's great. You're an idiot. Like, I wasn't saying that, but I was just pushing back. And she never, I don't think ever got that. She was also the alpha of the two, like very much. But I say that to say, Kristen then came over and told me her coming out story. She'll never come on here and tell her coming out story because it's very short. But she went to UT. She realized she was gay. And she was like 18, a freshman at UT. And you'll understand why I'm telling the story. I'm pointing at you because you'll understand why I'm telling. And she was like, you know what? I'm gay. And she was like, and her family all of a sudden decided they were Christian. They cast her out. Her sister, same thing. Never went to church. They just decided when she was gay, they were Christian. And so she's out on her own and she's dealing with that shit. And she was like, so I decided to be gay and I go and I look for other gay women and all of them look like boys. She was like, they're all
of masks.
butch, masculine, softball, whatever you said, softball.
Lesbians.
She was like, I gave up my family for this. Like, she was telling, no offense to the masks, but she's like, God damn it, gave up my life for this. And she's telling me this, and she was like, and then I met Kim. And Kim is very pretty, and she said Kim took her to be with her friends who are also gay, and she was like, and I walk in the room, and there are all these hot lesbians, and she's telling me this at work, and
Amazing.
I think I stopped her. I was like, Kristen, you can't come at me with a room full of hot lesbians.
Sign me the fuck up.
We're at work.
Yeah, well, I was like, and two, you better be damn glad I'm cool. I'm okay, because that sentence, to say that to other dudes would be like, oh yeah, tell me more. Where I was like, I'm going to pick on you for saying that. Yeah. I was like, but also, did you literally just say a room full of hot lesbians? I was like, that's the greatest thing. It was so good. It was so good. It was so funny. Those people I met working at the Sentinel. It was. Oh,
I was
God.
just there the other day.
Were you really?
We print the Park newspaper Gannett is the company that prints it now.
Yeah, there's
but
like.
I got a full tour. It was pretty cool.
So when you walk in the front doors and go to the right where all the salespeople are.
I did not go there.
Okay. There's like 7 people on that floor and it used to be full. You used to not be able to find a parking space in the lot.
Wow.
When I worked up there, it was wild.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
now it's just it's mainly just a printing and a hub for corporate.
Right.
Like one of my friends, Gerald, who still works there, Adler, he manages like a team in Florida. That's where his sales team is. And he goes in there and works in the office. Like, why are you not working at home? But they paid for that building. That's why. It used to be downtown. And a couple of friends that worked there when it was still downtown, they're like, it was so cool when it was downtown. Because you could just walk out a side door and go for a walk if you needed a break. Anyway. The Butch made me think of the Kristen Kim story. That's still one of my favorite stories ever.
It's a good story.
Did I give up my family for this? Room of hot lesbians. You're an idiot. God. I love them.
I downloaded Tinder because
Yes.
my roommate was like, yeah, this will be fun. I was like, okay, whatever.
Okay, it's my turn to embarrass you. If I recall, the conversation was her saying to you, "You seem lonely," and you saying, "I'm not lonely. I have my cats." JD Vance is losing it.
Huh?
She's not
oh, yeah.
Haitian.
Oh God! Oh God!
Sorry.
He's made the childless cat lady.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the
believe.
eating cats.
Oh God, no! I've already blocked out that debate.
So I will say, I sat right there and watched that debate. I couldn't look at
Why would you do that to yourself?
No, I couldn't look at the TV. I think I did not look at the TV but once or twice. I just kept tweeting shit and just going nuts. And
Yeah.
like,
There's nothing like, there will never be anything like Twitter when there is shit going
Oh,
down.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
We miss Twitter so
Yeah.
fucking much.
and Threads and blue
Nope.
Sky are not.
Nope. Not the same.
And yeah, it's not the same. Anyway.
It's Twitter.
There have been so many tangents now.
Anyway.
Yeah. Oh, so here, let's see if you all judge me for this, because it's so funny. It came up today on Facebook Memories. Someone may have a private group on Facebook that's called Tinderlicious, and that someone may post all the funny shit they see on Tinder. And one of my earliest podcasts was my friend Erin Hall, who is out and who is gay, and she lit into me for that's so mean. Why would you do that? I was like, because people don't need to be sharing that shit. I was like, because there is some shit on there.
Mm-hmm.
You would be astounded at how many conservative women.
Did you blur out the photos or names or anything?
Hell no.
Oh, okay.
It's a private group.
Oh,
Nobody
all
can
right,
find
all
it
right.
but the 20 or 30 people that
All right.
I've added to. No, it's private.
Okay.
No. And it all bore out of, I had two friends that I would text them what I see. And then all of a sudden I looked at how big that text thread, and it was 4 gigabytes worth of stuff. And I was like, I got to get rid of this. I'm going to start posting this shit to Facebook. And, but yeah, Aaron, the Facebook memory, and it was Aaron resharing and saying, and I take Jody to task for doing this. I was like, yeah, there is the conservative women. It is a lot now.
Yeah.
And every time I look at it, I was like, why do you hate yourself?
Yeah.
What are you doing, man?
It's true.
Women for Trump. Okay.
Internalized misogyny, big time.
The amount of MAGA I've seen. Yeah, sorry. So
you're on Tinder.
you're a alive and thriving cat lady.
Yeah.
And you decide to get on Tinder.
I'm a senior in college. I'm about to graduate. I have 2 cats. I live in a duplex with a roommate who is like, do this, it'll be fun. I'm like, what the hell? Okay. So I've I was on Her, which is a dating app for queer women.
Oh.
And
okay.
non-masculine identifying, non-binary people, non-men essentially. And I briefly dated someone off of there while I was still a student at Carson Newman. She was in Nashville. We vibed as friends, but we only dated for 3 months. It was mutual, whatever. But I'd never really downloaded Tinder before. So I did that. And I was scroll whatever. And I see this profile. And this girl is standing looking up in a tree. And it says, scoping out some real estate. And I'm like, oh, she's funny. And she had some funny things on her profile.
Now who's embarrassed? This is great.
Ha ha ha, it's my turn.
Why is this?
But
I need to shoot this.
I swiped right on her.
Yeah.
And so the struggle with being a queer woman on Tinder is you will match with someone, neither person ever makes the first move. No one messages. You just
You
match
will
and
have
that's it.
22 matches, no
messages.
communication exchanged.
Because
So
one
confused.
of the whole things about being a lesbian is you are always scared of coming off as predatory. Of we've all had the experience of having some man hit on us, and the last thing we want to do is make another person
The antithesis
uncomfortable.
of all my gay male friends.
It's the
Could
exact
not be
opposite of
more
gay men.
aggressive.
Gay men are like, hey, want to come fuck me?
Yes.
Lesbians are like, match. Crickets.
No, I'm kind of giggling, kind of looking at you for that is, you can judge me if you want. It's on this end, on straight, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of no effort that any woman puts in is fucking painful. On Hinge, do you know about Hinge?
Yeah.
You can message. I always try to say something clever or fun or find something on their profile and ask them a question about that. Any match I get this way, they liked your photo. I was like, fucking hell. And then you look at their profile and there's nothing. I was like, I don't know what to talk to you about.
I can't work with this.
Yeah, I can't work with. And then I saw someone on Bumble recently, and it was like, look, I'm old school. You have to message me first. I'm like, that's not how this app works. You have to message me, dumbass. Oh my God. It's just
There's this really funny bit about how Bumble developers didn't think about how it was going to work for queer women because only the women
that's
can message
great.
first. So they were it was a mock-up of them thinking okay, is it the person who's tallest, the person who can do the most pull-ups? We're trying to figure out how to make
I
that
want to make
work.
a very the person with the newest Subaru is the one that matches.
Mine's a 2008 LL Bean edition.
So I will make fun of my friend Erin because she may listen to this. She came out And then I met her for pizza like 2 weeks later.
Pops out of a Subaru.
She rolls up in a Subaru. I was like, really? Really? We're doing this? And she
Yeah.
was like, yep. I was
Yeah.
like, oh my God. I love her to death.
Yeah.
I will see her on Sunday. It was her birthday. And
I put a little lesbian flag sticker on the back of my Subaru, and Emma looked at me and she was like, "Isn't that redundant?" I need the world to know.
She really
Anyway,
does.
Doubling
I
down.
never feel more powerful than when I put on my Birkenstocks and I put on my flannel and I'm in my LL Bean Subaru with the lesbian flag sticker on the back, and I got my wife in the front seat, and I'm like, I've never been and will never be more powerful than I am in
your
this moment
Splenda
right
wife.
now.
My
My Stevia wife.
Stevia wife, yeah.
Anyway, I don't want to tell the whole story of how we met, but Emma and I matched. She was in Maryville. I was in Jefferson City.
Oh.
We started dating. I did my senior exhibit. I did not have frames. My dad is a carpenter. I was like, "Hey, Dad, I need you to make me frames for my senior show that's supposed to take up half of the gallery." Oh my God. He procrastinated. I procrastinated. We both procrastinated. We pulled an all-nighter framing everything and putting it was like the night before it's supposed to open, and we're hanging everything. It was stressful. We got it done. It was great. I graduated and I started immediately full-time at the Standard Banner at the newspaper. I did that. My roommate moved to St. Louis, so I got another duplex with 3 of my college friends. There was a unit above and a unit below. I lived in the one below with my friend Monica. I won't get into that whole roommate situation, but I was still, living in Jefferson City, working at the Standard Banner.
He wants to jump in.
Yeah.
Well, before we get there, or maybe you will be telling yours, you had moved down here. You didn't know anybody.
No.
So that's all I'm saying is I would love to hop on over to
Yeah, you
before
tell it
before
from
you
your
two
perspective.
actually get together.
Yeah, it is crazy that we've been talking for probably 2+ hours and only just now got to the point where we met.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about the art we're doing now.
Yeah.
Anyway,
We'll get there.
yeah.
We're actually getting to the point of the final question. So
Okay.
Okay, cool.
So you moved down here. You were working. You got your design job.
Yes.
By that point, had you made some friends?
I mean, it was real tough. Part of moving down here for me and kind of getting independence was that I had not really come out to anyone until the very end of college, and not to my family. So when I moved down here, I was like, oh shit, I can date girls now, and it's pretty, discreet. So I got really into that.
Yeah.
Had, a couple of shitty experiences before I met Lauren, unfortunately, but we met in early 2018. So I had been down here about 1.5 years at that point. And my main community at that point, I was working full time in Cades Cove. That was very demanding.
yeah.
My friends were my coworkers basically. And, so I'm
2018 Maryville, there's not a lot to go out and do.
not so much. We would
Yeah.
go to Barley's and do Singo sometimes.
Okay. Oh yeah, when Barley's was still there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Before it was the whatever Blue Tick Tavern or whatever. the
God
fuck it is
knows.
now.
Yeah.
I think it's been 2 or 3 things since Barley's. Been...
I actually miss Maryville. I lived in an apartment building right across from City Hall. It
that's
was
awesome.
It was a nice little spot.
It was
Yeah.
such a cute little apartment.
And we've been to Blunt Pride a few times now.
Yeah.
They're really in hot water right now trying to plan it. Have you not heard anything about this?
No.
Well, last year's event came under a lot of fire because of the drag show. People in town were giving them a lot of grief because, drag in front of the children, we can't have this.
Okay.
And so
I can't get angry.
I know.
yeah.
So
Like,
we gotta
I-
keep going.
Yeah.
there was a lawsuit filed and everything. And what happened this year is that Clayton Center for the Arts said, well, you can't, if you're going to do drag, you can't have it here. So they basically got boxed out of a venue this year. And they've been doing smaller kind of protest type events. But yeah, they were not able to have a big Blunt Pride.
At the Capitol Theater, I don't know.
I don't know.
I also don't want to know because I love the Capitol Theater. Have you ever went there for the ice cream? It's really good. They have an ice cream shop, and then you can go sit in the.
But you can't tell. I have a relationship with ice cream.
Okay.
I have an unhealthy dependence on ice cream.
Look at this. So do I. Yeah.
I get a half gallon of Bluebell cookies and cream. If I do not pace myself, I will eat the half gallon
Yeah.
out of the carton by myself in
Wait.
2 or 3 nights.
2 or 3 nights, not the one night. Okay, I was going to say.
I would do the one night, but
I'm telling you,
She won't
like
let me.
one Saturday or something,
She could.
go to that. I'm telling you, it's really good.
Okay, cool.
It's a really, like, my buddy Adam and I went, and I was like, I kind of want to come back, like, a lot and try everything on the. It will be the hardest choice of, like,
cool.
Okay.
We're doing it.
yeah, Capitol Theater.
Yeah, all that to say, I actually liked living in Maryville, but yeah, it was coming up to that fall when they came and told me that I had gotten a promotion, and I had been dating Lauren for about 6 months at this point. So now that I was going to be working in Gatlinburg, I was like, well, I need to find a place to live in Sevier County. So I had kind of started looking independently. Then
And I was like still living in Jefferson City, still working at the Standard Banner, like post grad depression of just like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? I miss the amazing walkable community I had where like everyone around me was into the same things I was into, and I had this like creative bubble and constant ideas. And
I have to ask, is this a common theme on your podcast where people are like, yeah, I graduated and I didn't know what the fuck to do?
Some, there a lot. Another reason, I'm going to tell a little bit something you may not even know. Like, another reason I really ask is because I started doing graphic design in 1992 when I was 13 years old as a freshman at Fulton. Because there's a full-on vocational, like we had auto mechanics, upholstery, woodworking,
so
commercial art, drafting, TV, radio. We had everything. And graphic arts was one of the only two classes that had a computer. And I wanted to work on computers. It was either that or drafting. And my buddy Robbie was in graphic arts, so I just took graphic arts all 4 years, like to where I was teaching classes and going and making drop-offs. We printed. Graphic arts was a print shop. We printed for legit companies. Like, it was insane.
At your high school. Wow.
Yeah, like there was. I always loved telling about our biggest client was a pager company called Volcom. So anytime I see kids with the skateboard or surfing Volcom, I was like, I did work for them in the 90s. Like, but yeah, it was like we did programs for Alice-Bell Ballpark for their football program. Like, we did legit, and then whatever money we raised, it started out of like, anytime you raise enough to throw a pizza party, we'll give you a pizza party. And like my freshman year, we got like 2 pizza parties. By my senior year, we had like 12 pizza parties. We were doing so much work. And I had to learn how to work. Literally worked in Photoshop 1. Ophoto Photoshop, it got bundled with a scanner. Like, literally. So by the time I got to college, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to be a graphic designer. And I went to Pellissippi because it was the opposite. You learned the applications. You didn't learn, like, you in theory and, all that, but like day one, you're learning how to operate the OS. You're learning how to work Photoshop. Like, it was very hands-on. Whereas UT, the first 2 years, you didn't touch a computer. I was like, computers is a weird thing to say in 1996. Computers are the future. Like, literally, that's what I said. I was like, that's why I want to go to Pellissippi. Like, because they're going to actually teach me how the hell to use the computer. And they weren't expensive as shit. It was like Carson Newman. Like, I actually I got heavily recruited by, oddly enough, Vanderbilt. I still don't know why. Because I was not the smartest kid in the world. Vanderbilt, Purdue, Lenoir-Rhyne in North Carolina, which at that point in 96 was $24,000 a year to go. In 1996 money. Like, that's insane.
That's crazy.
That's insane. But it was also a small town private school. And then UT, I was like, I don't want to go to UT. And Pellissippi, they had the best design program. The two main professors that started that program, one of them, David Gilbert, he's the one who did the World's Fair logo. Wow. He worked at an ad agency here. Still one of the nicest people and most positive and influential role models in my life. I've never reached out to him to be on here, but I should. Yeah. I don't have an email. I don't have a phone number. I'm connected to him on LinkedIn. He's retired and plays with his grandkids. That's the only reason why I think he may not be on. He's like, I got grandbabies to play with. I ain't coming over and talking to you, Jody. Come on. Okay, sorry. Keep going. So this is you all getting together. So you're looking for a place in Sevier County.
Yeah, I'm in Jefferson City. I want to get out, and then I lose my job at the Banner.
Okay.
So I'm like, it's November of 2018. I graduated in May. I don't have a job. I'm like, I don't want to, I need to get out. And Emma at the time is looking to be closer to Gatlinburg. And I'm like, I know we've only been dating since February, but, that's like dating for almost a year. It's lesbian years or like dog years. It's like we've almost been dating a year. It's time to move in. It's past time.
Familiar with the phrase U-hauling?
Somebody came out, and 3 days later, I literally was helping them move into a house.
Yep.
From a U-Haul.
Yep.
To where I was pulling up. She had not told me yet that she had found a partner, and I'm pulling up. I was like, all right, U-Haul. All right, that is a very butch-looking woman. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. Oh shit, they're together. Oh fuck. Okay.
Yep.
I think in my car I was like, you're living the fucking stereotype, man.
Yeah.
It's like, Jesus, man. Okay. And I helped them move in. Like, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be here for you. So
Yeah. So
a year, good Lord.
I know.
Like,
Long time.
I really like 9 months, but the timing was right, I guess. So we ended up getting a place on a mountain. The road was called Dolly's Drive.
yeah.
In Sevierville. And moved in together, and I kept on working job I currently have, and for Lauren it was a little bit more turbulent.
Yeah, there's kind of an artist community in Gatlinburg, but it's very much oriented towards landscape and extremely hard to break into it unless you have a lot of money and you're old, essentially.
Yeah.
And you're doing landscape paintings and other things that appeal to
my stuff was
boomer
very
tourists.
much like kind of more conceptual fine art, film, photography.
Yeah.
Just any way to make photography, which is potentially very viable as a successful career, not into that, that's what I did. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'm going to be a server because that's what you do. So I started working at a little tea room called the Wild Plum. It was only open Thursday, Friday, Saturday from 11 to 3.
Jeez.
Lunch only. Did that for about 6 months. Didn't work out. I found another job at a restaurant in Gatlinburg called Crystal Creek, and I worked there for about a year and a half. I don't really remember. Well, I was at Crystal
I'm
Creek.
starting to understand your objection to Ohio. All those tourists that came in from Ohio. That's what it is. Sorry.
It's just saying I live in Ohio.
I'm
like
a born
that.
and bred Michigander, so that just comes with the territory. But
Sorry. That was another softball. It was like,
Yeah.
they didn't tip well. I got you.
Well, it was, I was working there, and it was, we'd been living together for about a year. It's March 2020.
Oh, what happened?
Something happened. So the restaurant shut down. It was all work from home. Emma brought her work computer, and that was I know that lockdown was so rough for so many people. Lockdown was the best shit ever because we just got to hang out all day, every day. Animal Crossing came out at that time. We were busting ass working on our island together, and it was our island.
It only
that was
came out in
shared.
2020?
yeah,
For some reason, I thought, oh, God, okay.
It was right before lockdown happened.
Okay.
And that's why it was so huge.
Okay.
And genuinely, I credit Animal Crossing New Horizons to helping us communicate because we shared an island.
It's
We each
hilarious.
had our own little house on our island. And so we had to make joint decisions which village are we going to move in? What are we going to do for the landscaping here? It was very much like a mutual back and forth of decision making as to how to make this place work for both of us.
it was practice for having a house together.
Okay.
Yeah.
So lockdown was great. Got to hang out with Emma. We literally had to have our couch cushions restuffed because we spent so much time sitting on the couch that the cushions
That's
just
amazing.
became nothing. And then started back up again. A new owner bought Crystal Creek, and he essentially fired everyone. And
Lovely.
then I was like, well, okay, there's this new fancy Italian restaurant, so let's go work there. Worked there for a year and a half. It was great, except the owner was fucking insane. And Gianfranco, if you ever hear this podcast for any reason, fuck you.
Damn it. I was like, ooh, Italian. And
Oh,
never mind.
it's delicious. It's like the food was, I miss the food so much. The owner was a flat earther, despite being a pilot and having his own private plane. Thinks the earth is flat, very Catholic, very homophobic.
Sounds like a great guy.
Thinks he, like, I have trouble not speaking my mind, so I would call him on his shit. He did not like that. Lost that job, and I was like, you know, this is the 4th job in a row that I've been fired from. I'm traumatized. Maybe I should just try and do music, because this whole time, like, after lockdown, after like the most stringent COVID precautions, which, you know, we were both still taking, I am still trying to take. I was still like going to Filks. Filks went virtual for a while.
Okay.
And then when conventions came back, it was like mask required at all times, proof of vaccination, like Corsi Rosenthal boxes, like very conscious about potential community transmission. So once cons started happening again, I was writing a lot. Well, not a lot. I was writing during COVID, and once I started writing songs, I kind of stopped writing poetry. So I wasn't really processing in poetry anymore. I was doing it in songs. So I started really getting more confessional in my writing.
Okay, I do have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Are you still mainly playing with the older people, or have you found other people that are more your age that you
So
play with?
when I graduated, like Yonder and Back, the band I was in
Yeah.
college, kind of like, I mean, Kat and I were the ones leaning left, and everyone else was kind of right wing. So that
And
was
folk music.
it was. I mean,
Well, that's
old
Jefferson
time and
City.
bluegrass are
Yeah, it's
different.
Jefferson City.
Bluegrassers are like conservative, and old timers are like hippy dippy. Generally, there was some old time people. There were some bluegrass people,
Which
but
is weird to me because so much bluegrass and country music
it's
is
labor songs.
or labor songs are anti-law.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's so weird to me that though they're
Or like music that like slaves
yeah
sang to each other, just
Yeah.
songs that have been passed down, oral tradition.
weird.
Yeah.
So weird.
Anyway.
sorry.
I had like been writing songs. I like wrote some love songs for Emma, and then I wrote a song about like my mental health, and I was like, I've always been an open book.
Yeah.
Like, I have no secrets. I will just overshare with a stranger at the drop of a hat my deepest trauma. No problem with it. I started kind of writing a lot more personal stuff, and I was like, this is kind of my thing. This is what I'm going to do. So I was going to Filks, and I like got asked to be like a guest of honor at a convention in well, first I was like an Interfilk guest, which is its own thing, at a convention in Seattle, and then I got asked to be a guest at a convention in the Bay Area in California. So I started, they like paid my airfare and my
Holy
hotel and
crap.
everything.
That's
so
awesome.
we turned those both into like vacations. So when we went to Seattle, we went to Mount Rainier, and we did Olympic National Forest. And we went to the Bay Area, we did Yosemite and Kings Canyon and Sequoia and like Muir Woods and all that. So when we go places, we turn them into trips. But like
Did you explore the city in San Francisco?
Yeah,
a little
we had
bit.
a tour guide.
Yeah, we
That's-
a couple of friends of mine like drove us around. It was a cool city.
That's my favorite city, other than
impossible
the
to
city.
prohibitively expensive for anyone to
Oh,
live in unless you're in
God,
tech,
yeah.
but a cool city.
Yeah.
But Filk was like, I was kind of Filk's new, very, very big fish in a small pond.
Okay.
Which like, it's a good feeling being a
Yeah.
big fish in a small pond. But I was also like feeling self-conscious about my music not really fitting in Filk the genre, even though it is Filk the community. So I was like, I need to start finding some local stuff. I was talking at a convention I go to in Ohio with some friends, and one of them said like, oh, like, when are you going to do an album? And I was like, for the longest time before that, I would say when I have enough material. And then one time he asked me, and I was like, when I have enough money. And he was like, you have enough material now? And I said, yeah. And he's like, what if money was no problem? And I said, what the fuck do you mean? And he said, what if I funded your album? And I was like, okay.
That's amazing.
So I flew out to Oregon City, Oregon in 2022, and I recorded with some really dear Filk friends of mine in their house. They just have like a spare room that's like a little recording studio, and we built the Blanket Fort vocal booth with PVC pipes and moving blankets in their walk-in closet, so Jen loses her closet for a few months.
That's amazing.
And we recorded my album there. I had a friend fly from Indianapolis who plays harp, and a friend drive down from Seattle who plays fiddle. And then I had a bunch of other Filk friends all in different places, like send in their instrument tracks. So there's violin, viola, cello, clarinet, bass clarinet, harp, recorder, bamboo flute, like all sorts of instruments. And Filk is a very generous, giving, pass it forward community. There's this expectation of like, I will send you tracks for your album for free. When I make an album, if I want tracks from you, send them to me for free. So it's just very kind of community minded.
Yeah.
And that album was released in October of 2022. And I have CDs, and it is on all the streaming things.
Is it just under your name, or is
Lauren Oxford by Lauren Oxford? It's just a self-titled debut thing. But once that was out, I got asked to be a guest of honor at a convention in the UK. I was the international guest of honor.
Okay.
So we flew to the UK in like late January, early February this year. And it was my first time going across the pond. That was really cool. So like Filk genuinely, I mean, Filk is a bunch of retirees who were like rocket scientists or like computer programmers or doctors. It's a lot of just nerdy boomers who have money and like want to support music in the community. Filkers buy CDs. They buy your music. They support you. And it's not just that. It's the community. It's such a welcoming and supportive community. And I credit my being a songwriter and like a musician to the Filk community. And in the past year or so, I've kind of started trying to get more into like the local Knoxville scene. Like, I don't know if you've heard, but there's a nonprofit called like Knox Music Coalition.
Yeah.
And they're trying to do like educational programs and like showcases. There's like a writer's round that happens at Barley's that I've been to a couple times.
Is it Colin?
Mm-hmm. Colin Coe, yeah. He runs like a open mic at the Jig and Reel, but I've been doing more of that.
So I went to a show at Barley's for this band. Shit, now I'm gonna forget their name. I'm trying to not Google it. What the hell is their name? Willis. Am I thinking about that right? They had a song blow up on TikTok called I Think I Like It When It Rains. If you heard it, you would probably recognize it. You both. But they played Barley's, and I was the oldest person there. It was all 25 and under, except for Colin was there.
Yeah, that checks out.
And one other friend of mine, and that friend was like, how the hell do you two not know one another? I was like, well, I've seen him around town. I just don't play music, and I don't go to the singer-songwriter nights. And he and I stood there and talked for like 30 minutes.
He's a cool guy.
Yeah.
He's got some really great songs. But I also, I forgot to mention the Darlings.
I was waiting.
In 2021...
That's what I was trying to lead you when I said the younger people.
Yeah.
Sorry.
In 2021, through Filk, someone reached out to me and was like, hey, we would like to send you and Kat to a songwriting camp that's run by John McCutcheon.
Oh, crap. Okay.
And we want you to take what you learned there and bring it back with you and just like, teach workshops or like kind of bring it back and share it with the community. We'll send you there. We'll pay for it. You take what you learn, share it with us. So Kat and I did that in August of 2021. That was awesome. While I was there were some other younger songwriters there, and we kind of just like formed this really fast friendship. And two of them, Emily and Sage, I became like really close friends with, and we stayed in touch after the camp was over. And Emily was like, hey, there's this thing that my family goes to every year. It's this folk festival in Kansas called Winfield, or Walnut Valley Festival is what it's called, but it's in Winfield, Kansas, so it's called Winfield. And she was like, you and Sage should come next year. And I was like, okay. So September 2022, I drove 14 hours to Kansas.
Holy crap.
And while I was there, I was like hanging out with Emily and Sage. And Emily was like, I have this friend Gray who plays fiddle, and they and I we grew up as kids in the old time music community. I've known them for like over a decade. So what if like the four of us kind of like did some of each other's songs and played together? And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. And at this time, me, Emily, and Sage had all gotten an email from John saying, hey, I want to do an invite-only masterclass songwriting workshop camp, and I want the three of you there. It's $1,500. And I was like, I'm unemployed, but I sure would love to be there. So we did a show at Winfield to kind of like try and raise money to go to that camp. And right after, so we became a band at this festival, the four of us. 2 days after we started practicing, we played a show. One day after we played a show, we had a friend there with a portable recording studio that he pulls in a wagon behind him in his truck. And we cut our first EP after being a band for 4 days at a festival. And we used those EP sales to kind of help fund me, Emily, and Sage to go to the songwriting camp. And then the Starlight Darlings were born. That's the band.
Okay.
And we started like doing more shows. And then John was like, well, now they're a band, so even though Gray didn't go to one of my first camps, which is a prerequisite, I'm going to invite them anyway because they're a good songwriter. And so the four of us and Emily's brother Corey ended up going to the masterclass camp in July of last year. And that was a lot of fun. And like now I'm also in a band in addition to the solo career, but I'm here in East Tennessee. Sage moved last year from Portland, Oregon to Asheville.
Oh.
Gray is in Morgantown, West Virginia, and Emily is in Brooklyn, New York City. We're all in the same time zone now, but from me to Emily, it's a 12-hour drive apart.
The one outlier, yeah.
So it's hard for all of us to get together and be in one spot. But when we do, it's a lot of fun, and I'm really hoping that we can cut an album at some point. But we do, each of us is a songwriter. It's a band led by 4 songwriters. There isn't just 1 or 2. All of us do that. We do 4-part vocal harmony, and it's got kind of old-time instrumentation. So it's Emily plays banjo mostly, Gray plays fill, and Sage and I play guitar.
I'm curious if you would like this guy. I almost want to give you homework of somebody.
Okay.
There's this guy named Ellis Paul.
Oh, yeah. He
Okay.
runs a big, like,
Yes.
Northeastern songwriting
So
workshop
my
thing.
favorite podcast is called
Sage just went to his Northeast songwriting workshop. They got a scholarship.
Okay.
So they're coming back from that.
He may actually remember me because I try really hard to be a good person. And I'm setting that up because I don't want to sound like I'm patting myself on the back. I'm just stubbornly moral. That's the phrase I've come up with.
I like
He
that.
came here and played a Tennessee Shines when it was still in the Visitors Center. And I went and saw him. Well, my favorite podcast, Never Not Funny, Jimmy Pardo, who's the head of that's his favorite person. And he's become friends with Ellis. So Ellis is on his show all the time. He's like, I'm going to be. So he happened to come through Knoxville. I was like, I'm going to go see him. So I went to that Tennessee Shines, saw him perform. And afterwards, I was like, I want to buy a vinyl. He's like, cool. And I was like, do you have, like, back then it was still a stripe. Stripe? No, square. Mm-hmm. And he was like, it's in the car. And I was like, okay. And I was like, I don't have cash. And he was like, you'll get me next time. I was like, oh, I don't know when the next time. Shit. Okay. So in my head, I was like, I still owe Ellis Paul $20. And he came back and played the Blue Plate. And I went and saw him. And afterwards, he went around and sat in the back, and I walked up to him and was like, "Hi, you probably don't remember me." And I literally reached in my pocket. I was like, I'm a Never Not Funny fan. I told you that then. He was like, "Oh yeah, you guys are the best." Like, he loves Never Not Funny because they support him a lot. And I was like, "You probably don't remember this, but the last time," and I told him the story, and I was like, "And I owe you $20." And he just went, "I can't believe you're paying me back." Like, he was freaking the fuck out. I was
That's
like,
folk music.
I was like, "No, I want to go." No, damn it! Like,
Yeah.
my mom and dad would kick my ass.
Take my fucking money.
If I didn't pay you back this $20. Like,
Yeah.
no, I owe you $20, motherfucker. Like, and there was part of me that's like, you could also walked out to your car and got your damn square reader. Like, so I didn't. I felt bad, but not too bad.
That's folkies.
I know.
That's
But
that's what we
he
do.
could not get over that I paid him back. I was like, "Nah, I owe you $20, you dickhead. Like, I'm going to pay you this $20."
I want to make it to that songwriting camp.
But
one
that
day,
song,
but-
he talks about songwriting. Him
Yeah.
and there's another guy. I don't know where he's based out of. Vance Gilbert.
Mm-hmm.
That he is real close with him, and that dude. Both of them are like insane.
they're amazing
Yeah.
songwriters.
And it's so funny because Ellis's biggest song, it was on the soundtrack to Cameron Diaz, Ben Stiller.
What is
Something
this?
about Mary. Something about Mary, or like stupid comedies. Me, Myself, and Irene. One of those. It's called The World Ain't Slowing Down. It's a great song, but it's off one of those soundtracks, and that's what he's known for most. And it's hilarious to me. Have you not seen Something About Mary with Cameron Diaz? And
No,
We're
I
not-
thought
we're
you
not
were doing
big-
charades
We're
with
not
your
big romantic
was.
comedy.
Oh,
They're all too straight.
I'm sorry for being gross. How do I say this? I'm going to go very inappropriate. Ben Stiller is in this, and someone tells him, he was like, "I want to go out with Mary, but I get nervous." And someone tells him, "If you do something to yourself beforehand, you will not be so nervous." So he does something to himself, and then he goes to her house, but he can't find the stuff. I'm trying to not be gross about this.
innuendos or
Yeah.
euphemisms are making
Yeah.
it so hard to parse.
Yeah. He cannot find what came out of him.
Okay.
And he goes to pick her up. He just puts on his clothes, goes to pick her up. And when she opens the door, she's like, "Oh, is that hair gel?" And it was hanging from his. And she grabs it and puts it in her hair. And then the next scene is her hair is standing up like this. It's the dumbest, like. But that's what cracks me up about Ellis Paul. Is like, that's your biggest song. Is
Yeah.
in that film. Like,
That's what happens.
It's like
and I
it's-
bet it's made him a good amount of money,
Yeah.
and good for him.
But he will not play it live, which kind of bums me
Yeah,
out because
that
it's
checks
such a
out.
beautiful song. It's such a great. The
I'm
world
sure
ain't slowing down.
That's his Freebird.
Yeah, yeah. He does have he has an interesting song about Johnny Cash that's really good. "Kick Out the Lights." Anyway, sorry.
But we've gotten like really close with John. He's kind of like taken us under his wing. He plays Winfield every year, and we like sang with him on the big stage. And he had a show in Asheville in February, and he had us open for him. And if you know anything about John McCutcheon, he doesn't have openers. It's just a big John show.
I'm trying to remember. I thought he was in a band at some point.
He's mostly had a solo career. I
Yeah.
mean, his big song was "Christmas in the Trenches." He's got a lot of other though. He's just like he's one of those like folk stalwarts. He's like
Yeah.
up there with like Tom Paxton as just like a king in the folk
Yeah.
world.
But I know the Ellis Paul that is a huge thing. Is his song? I think it's up in Massachusetts because
It's in the Northeast
Because I think
somewhere.
he's
Yeah.
based out of Boston or something.
Yeah, it's in Massachusetts or something.
Okay.
Anyway, so that's the Starlight Darlings, and
And you all recorded a video for the Tiny Desk.
we recorded a Tiny Desk contest submission in. We played a show in Asheville. It was the same weekend as the John show, and we recorded it in Emily's parents' backyard with like the cows. It's
really
just
cool video.
Like an acapella. It's an acapella song Emily wrote that we all sang. But we're gonna do it again this coming year, and we'll actually have our instruments in there too, because that
Okay.
was so thrown together last minute. It was
Okay, here's another.
mess.
Do you know the Waylon Jennings?
oh my god, huge influence.
So I saw them at Clayton Center for the Arts. That show got canceled and rebooked like 4 times during the pandemic.
They're
When they
so
finally
good.
came, they came out on stage. They're like, "We finally made it!" Like,
I love
and it was
them
their,
so
I think,
much.
first time playing in the area. Like, it was nuts.
That's like that I would compare the sound of the Darlings to
Yeah.
the Waylon Jennings.
They're
It's that
insane.
tight harmony, kind of old time instrumentation.
And they all have their own voice. Do you all have your own voice? Like you'll play lead, somebody will sing
Yes.
lead. Okay.
Yeah, it's like we want more time together to write songs as the Darlings, because as it stands right now, it's like Emily brings a song that she wrote, or Sage brings a song that they wrote, or Gray brings a song that they wrote, and like we all add harmonies to it. But we really want to try and write together. It's just whenever we get together, we're usually playing a show, and it's like, oh my God, we have to practice. We have to figure all this out. Like, let's go. It's just a bunch of crazy.
Every time you say
Tasks.
the Darlings, did you know there was a band on the Andy Griffith Show called the Darlings?
Checks out.
Bluegrass group. Yeah.
We are the Starlight Darlings, but I just
Starlight
call them my Darlings. It's
Yeah.
Darlings is just the shorthand.
This will be the greatest segue ever. Speaking of creative endeavors out into the public, so Emma,
That's
you,
me.
You have a children's book. Look at that! I feel like Jimmy Fallon with the most clunky
Boo.
transition. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we did come here to discuss radically different careers, so. Yeah, this fell into my lap, and it's very strange because I remember going to school with people who, like, it was their dream to illustrate a kid's book, and that wasn't necessarily something I had on my radar, but, you know, I mentioned that we are a publisher, so one of the things we do is we take manuscript submissions, and we have a council that looks them over and kind of decides, like, okay, is this relevant to the park enough? Do we think it will sell well? You know, is it kind of a niche that we don't have already? And someone, a retired school teacher in North Carolina, submitted a manuscript about a synchronous firefly. And in 2023, they decided we were going to publish it. And so my supervisor approached me and said, do you want to illustrate this book? And I said, sure, why not? Like, sounds cool. There's a firefly protagonist, and, you know, he has to fight off a spider and a predator firefly to, you know, successfully mate. Which is kind of a, like, grim and gruesome adult theme, but, you know, she wrote it with the intent of kind of showing, like, these natural phenomenon, like
Yeah.
mimicry and, you know, defense mechanisms and that kind of thing. You're... You're thinking about the particular defense mechanism.
No, I was actually looking at the levels to make sure I was
okay.
getting you. Sorry.
So, yeah, I took that on early in 2023, and it was daunting because I had never done a kid's book before. I did a chapter book a couple years previously, but those were not, you know, the bulk of the book. It was more of kind of accompanying illustrations,
Yeah.
whereas this one, you know, the illustrations are the main attraction. That sounds... They're bigger on the page, I
Yeah.
should say. And yeah, it was a process. I sometimes don't get to illustrate a lot at my job, so jumping back into like such a demanding project was really intimidating at first. And also just getting like a Microsoft Word document of like, okay, here's the story. It's not broken up by page at all. Like, you have to decide what's worth featuring and how it's going to be paced, basically.
You weren't just the illustrator; you were also the designer.
Yeah, it's a weird position because in my understanding, the world of kids lit, the illustrator kind of just provides art files and someone else puts the book together. Someone else does the lettering, someone else does the layout, someone else does the marketing. But we are such a small production that all of that kind of gets rolled up into my job. I mean, we had an editor, of course, who I worked with. But yeah, I just got into the thumbnails and kind of tried to figure out how I was going to tell the story visually and tried to figure out how I was going to make a firefly, like, expressive.
Yeah.
You know, turn it into a character who had visible emotions and kids would want to root for and that kind of thing. But yeah, it came out this May. It's called... Jesus Christ, why am I blanking?
Foe.
It's called Foe, A Smokey's Firefly Adventure. And
PHO, spelled like pho.
PHO, yes. Everyone has been like the soup. It's short for Photinus carolinus, which is the scientific
I
name.
don't know why you wouldn't use that as the title. I mean, that's so easy.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, it's the story of synchronous fireflies in the park and kind of how they do their thing and why it's special and different from other fireflies.
Have you
So-
gotten to meet the writer?
Yeah, we did a
Okay.
couple book signings this summer.
Oh, shit. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
She was really
Yeah.
sweet.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's great. And you got positive feedback every month at the Illustrators Group.
Yeah, I mean, I
she
was...
would be so tempted. She's like, hey guys, what do you think about
She
this?
gets so self-conscious when she goes to
And
the
we're all
Illustrator
like, that's fucking
meetups.
awesome. Like, what are
She's
you
like,
talking about?
everyone's freelancing, and here I am with my like full-time design job, and I just feel like such a
Shit.
chump
I do
coming into the meetings.
marketing all
and I'm
day.
like,
Come on now.
stop.
Well, I don't know. I get imposter syndrome because I feel like I'm not doing illustrating all the time. My job is such a like jack of all trades kind of thing.
So this is very much a side note. There is part of me that is concerned that group sounds way too daunting, and I don't mean it to sound
Oh
daunting.
no!
No, because
You mean
it's-
like for people in the public?
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out more ways to get more people there,
Hmm.
and it's just literally not enough hours in the day for me. And
It's
it's me.
baffling to me because she goes to all these musician events and people show up in droves. And I truly just wonder if illustrators are reclusive people by nature.
Oh, fireworks from the fair. I was like, what the
I was like, what is
hell is
exploding
that?
in
Is
the
somebody trying to get in my kitchen door? I was like, I will pull down a samurai sword and go after
Whoa.
him.
That would be the best podcast episode recording ever.
That is a conversation not on mic. That is something that actually my last therapist appointment, we talked about the art scene here. And he is very positive on the art scene here, but it was a very interesting... That may be a conversation off mic, I will tell you. And it's not hot take or I don't have beef. He actually joked because I told him what Abigail said. Somebody, a friend of ours who's at this, Abigail, she looked at me one day and she was like, you have beef with everybody. And so I told him that story and I told him my problem. And he's like, you don't have beef with everybody. You are just very comfortable in yourself and calling out the bullshit. And I was like, I am
Yeah.
very comfortable.
You and I are the same.
Yeah. Just different.
Different heights, but
Big guy
yeah.
privilege versus just...
So I have this like wild pipe dream.
I was
pet
gonna say you should
project.
you
I've
should launch this into the ether.
kind of been like mulling over. I discovered that my hometown, Grand Rapids, Michigan, has had a festival for the past couple years called Pleasant Peninsula. It comes from the state motto, which is
Okay.
if you seek a pleasant peninsula, look around you.
Which is
But
like the best fucking state motto
it's
ever.
incredible.
It's so
the
good.
Tennessee state motto is just agriculture and commerce. How is that even a motto? Those are just words.
Horrible.
Anyway,
This is what happens when you want kids to go to charter schools. Sorry.
so the festival, they call it an art where art meets activism, and it is very much a celebration of Michigan's like native wildlife, like the fish population, the native plants. And so they have mural artists come in and do like big, graphic style murals of like the local wildlife. They have presentations like about sort of relevant environmental concerns. They had an art market with people, like selling sort of nature-themed goods.
Don't they have
I
music?
think they had live music. Like literally just an intersection of things that I am so passionate about because, for one thing, I work to support the national park, but we also have these sort of adjacent causes. One of them I've talked a lot about, which is the bear conflict problem. Sort of the issues with people not, securing their trash and just learning to live responsibly with bears. And then also, you were making fun of it earlier. No, you weren't making fun of it, but the wolf crossing thing when it came to the West Wing. Genuinely, there is a problem to the kind of northeast of the national park where I-40 goes between Knoxville and Asheville. There is a problem in that area. It's called the Pigeon River Gorge, where bears and elk and deer get hit on the highway a lot. Because it's kind of a huge barrier. They have those big concrete, medians, and it's really hard for wildlife to move across there. So there's an effort called Safe Passage, and there's kind of those things that are involved with my work. I'm part of a local group called Wild Ones, which is like a native plant sort of advocacy group. So all of these things just like intersect right in the middle of my passions and also like bringing art into it. I'm just like, holy shit, like could Knoxville have a festival like this?
And Knoxville and Grand Rapids are like pretty much kind of the same.
Yeah, they're roughly the same size.
There's a lot of mural artists in Knoxville. Knoxville's like the whole maker city. Like it just seems like a really good place to have something like this with its proximity to
but
the park.
Like I
and
said,
everything.
right now it is a pipe dream because like my personal network is so small and event planning is so fucking difficult. Like believe me, I get it. But
So, I am going to hold my tongue, but as you started this, I may have written something down that we will talk about
Okay.
Okay,
at
cool.
a later point.
Cool.
See all my notes that they're all big and bold. I was like, oh yeah,
So you can see 'em?
I need to remember all this stuff.
I like how they're increasing in size
Yeah.
towards the end.
Well, that was just so you all could see it because it
Oh,
was still
okay.
kind of one of the things. I love Yiddish and I speak a lot of Yiddish.
Oh, cool.
And as Liquid and Light, for some reason in my head came Sticks and Stones, and I was like, "Fuck, that's a good album
That's
title."
good.
I was like, "I might keep that for myself."
Sticks
Sticks
and
and trademark Jody. If you're listening to this now, damn it, Sticks and Stones. I can't play a damn instrument. I'm going to do an album called Sticks and Stones. And
I
it's
can't really play an instrument either.
so I have a real banjo in there. I'm pointing in my bit. And a bass that is a viola bass like Paul
Oh, cool.
McCartney
Yeah.
that I bought for $100 at at the place where I saw Anais Mitchell, Matt Morlock Music. And I started learning the banjo. I learned like 2 or 3 rolls, but once I got to chording, my brain can't do the two at the same. And I finally just gave up because I couldn't. And then I got the bass and I learned a little bit, but if you don't do it every day, you're done. And
Yeah.
my buddy Gailey was like, just put it on a stand in your living room because you'll sit down, you'll finish eating, and you'll pick it up. I'm going to play for a little bit. And I didn't do that. And I don't know. Maybe I'll eventually learn, but I also don't. Anyway, I got the banjo because I was like, this is the hardest one of the like guitar family. So if I learn this, then I can easily transition to electric guitar or because I see somebody. Do you know the tallest man on earth? So he's one that he started with the banjo.
That's not you?
Yeah, no. What's funny is I've seen him at the Bijou. He squats down, and we are almost eye to eye. He is so short. It is hilarious because he'll squat down and play. And it's like, and I stood up, and I was like, "Holy shit, we are eye to eye, brother." It's like, don't squat down, man. It does not help you at all. But he learned on the banjo, and seeing him play like electric guitar is phenomenal because it is just so fast. Anyway, book. I think we covered the book.
Yeah.
We covered the book. Okay. I can't remember what random. Oh, festival. We'll
Yeah.
talk more. Here, we'll go through the last few questions. So, what would you like to see more of in art and creativity? Either one of you, and maybe music also for you.
I want you to go first so I can mull it over.
I want you to go first so I can mull it over. I mean, I think a lot of what the Knox Music Coalition nonprofit is trying to do in Knoxville is like, Knoxville has a music scene, but it doesn't have a music community. And it's trying to translate scene into community and build the connections between people.
This has actually been a topic of conversation a lot recently with friends of mine, in that like it's weird that a handful of people moved away and
And then it
kind
fell
of
apart.
Fell apart. There's a
It happens sometimes.
There's a couple here. Tim and Susan Lee are not from here, but they moved here, and by God, they drove a lot here. In a certain and they are also two of the nicest people I've ever met. They are two of the best people in the world. But they had to move back to Mississippi. I think it may have been family health. You know, Tim and Susan, I think, are in their, I'm going to say early 50s. But they are the nicest people in the world. And it's weird when they moved away, it felt like a big part of pulling all that together. Because when they did like Record Store Day over here at Lost and Found, Tim would be there at like 4 a.m. with his barbecue, like making barbecue for people who came all day. Like fucking salt of the earth, awesome people. So big struggle I have. This is in art, and I kind of feel this way a little bit from an outsider looking in on the music. Too many people siloing, wanting to own shit.
Yeah.
Whereas it feels like it used to be a little bit more inclusive.
The problem is capitalism.
How many songs you got? No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so
More of a music community in Knoxville, and the nonprofit is really kind of working towards making that a reality. They have like these meetups that they do. They have showcases. I played one about a month ago. They have like these educational programs they're trying to get going. So I I really hope that that continues to gain traction. And there's a lot of like really phenomenal songwriters and musicians in Knoxville. It's just a matter of like, we need a place where a kind of centralized area where we know what places are booking, like where to get gigs, like if someone is looking for an opener, or there's just a lot more we could be doing to kind of organize and make something happen.
You need one of the forums from the early era of the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So
We need some circa 2002
Pro boards.
JavaScript website.
So that used to be so Knox Bands and Knox Shows. Knox Bands was our website, and it was essentially a hyper localized version of MySpace. Like you could go in there and create a band or a musician profile. You could upload songs, and you could put where you were playing. And here is a number that will blow your mind. When we shut down the site, we were getting 100,000 unique page views a month and 100,000 unique users and 1 million page views per month. And there was another one that was a message board that was Knox Shows, and they hated us. And they were calling us like corporate and shit. And I was like, I'm going to a Pilot Light show on a Tuesday night till 3 a.m, then getting up at 5:30 a.m. to go work my fucking job. And you're calling me corporate because our website looks good. You dickheads.
It's like, we need to be working together
Yeah.
to make this
God,
better for all of us.
That always makes me wonder if people think that good graphic design is like pretentious somehow. Like
Yeah.
I've thought a lot about how the Trump hat is like the ugliest thing in the world,
Yeah.
but like people flock to it almost because it's bad. Like
Yeah.
it seems more authentic or rough around the edges
Yeah.
or something, and like slick, clean graphic design
Well,
is
look at the Obama Hope poster.
yeah.
Like how singular that graphic was, that really drove a lot of, yeah. I will say the Harris Walls logo sign is terrible.
Why is it like
I
different?
do like somebody's, I always fuck up her name. Is it Kamala?
I do it too.
I think
and
it's
the-
Kamala.
So here's the problem. There's like a comic book character that is Kamala Khan. Like, and it's like, fuck. Like, I'm trying to do the right thing, but I also was like, wait, which one is which? It's one of those like you hear both and you're like, shit, I don't know
Yep.
which one is which.
Yeah.
But it's somebody did her name in the Barbie thing, and it says Ann Tim in like the little Mattel Starburst. I was like, that's fucking awesome. That is fucking awesome. And it's pink and it's very glittery, but it's very cool.
Yeah, I feel like it was put together very last minute.
Yeah.
Which is understandable.
Just like
but-
the announcement and campaign. And everything.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Anyway, sorry. Yeah. What would you like to see more of in art and creativity?
That, more of a music community, and also like, I mean, for us, being in Sevierville,
It is weird, like because I am older, and when I was growing up, Gatlinburg was a little more like there were artists who did,
and
there
there
were folk
there are
artists.
there's
like,
folk art everywhere, but it's like it feels very already established, and you can't really
yeah,
break in.
It's also so catering to the tourists.
Yeah.
That's the entire.
It's not
Agreed.
anything about. There's no local building of a local community. There's no invitation. There's no reaching out. It's like this stratified.
I got invited to Pentaculum at Aramont for the 2D for the printmaking. I was the only local person, other than Ashton, who was running it. But I mean, in the entire program, in all the other, I was the only local person. And I swear to God, there was a day where they were like, "We want to go try moonshine," and so like I shepherded.
Real authentic Appalachian
So there's
moonshine.
the thing. I was like, this shit's like vodka.
You're getting it at Sugarlands
Yeah.
Brewing.
Yeah. And
Old Patty didn't brew that up in the holler over there.
and I was like, I'll go with y'all, but this is fucking stupid. So I went with them, and it
JD Vance thinks you can get real moonshine in Gatlinburg, Tennessee.
So I took them, and it was like 8 people, and there was one woman where I had to carry her back. She got so shit-faced. And I'm sitting there, we're doing shots.
That's
and
embarrassing.
You go and do shots, and it's like $5, and they give you like 11 half shots. And I'm sitting there, and just sitting there, and it's like, it's me. So I'm just like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, I'm still sober. I'm fine. This
This other
ain't real
lady's
shit.
like,
Yeah. One was like, I'm going to, Jamie, God love her. She's like, I'm going to go pick up some pickles. She's like, my husband loves pickles because we tried them. And so she bought them. And then, like, I'm not kidding, 2 days later, I was like, how much of that is pickles? She's like, I already ate them all and drank that. And I was like, Jesus, Jamie. And she was like, I got to go pick up another one for my husband. Like, God love you.
You know what I
Jamie.
saw yesterday? I was driving through Gatlinburg. I saw a lady walk out of there with like a rolling suitcase type thing, like that said Old Smoky on it. Like she had bought enough moonshine that she was walking out of there with a rolling suitcase.
Jesus Christ.
So I still wait. Sorry, let me rephrase in case the law is listening. Someone may still have a jar that is the real shit, and I flavor my own moonshine, and I've made 20-something flavors, and someone shit.
You can cut this out.
Yeah,
I don't care.
no flavoring. It's fine. Flavoring it's
okay.
fine because I'm not mate brewing the moonshine or buying illegal moonshine. And now when I flavor, I have to get 2 jars of that shit to equal the 1 jar or somebody of the. I've spoke in such circles that
Yeah.
no
Who
one will be able to
knows?
deduce what
knows what's
they
going
are
on?
saying about that person.
Yeah.
But it's like 1 jar of the old shit equals 2 jars. I was like, God, man, this is bullshit, man.
Yeah.
But where I was going with that is that,
sorry.
like, for us to have any sort of creative community, it's an hour.
Yeah.
After Emma's, 40-hour-a-week job and her commute, and she gets home, and at that point it's like, just want to eat dinner and, like, watch a show. And
Yeah.
so I wish that there was something. It's hard to make local friends in Sevier County where it is so tourism oriented and any cool, hip, like-minded younger person is getting the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
So like
You make
anything
fun of those
local.
young Russian. Are the Russians still there?
There's all kinds of
There was a period like in the mid-aughts where it was just, you would go to like Ruby Tuesdays for lunch or something, and every waiter or waitress was a Russian immigrant.
Huh.
It was insane.
There were a couple of Romanians when I was at the
Okay.
Italian restaurant.
There's such a housing problem too in Sevier County.
yeah.
Like
It's
you're
rough.
not paid enough in the hospitality industry to actually live there. So from what I have heard, like there are actually buses from Knoxville that come in every day, like
Holy
full of people
crap.
who work in Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge.
Okay.
But
Okay, so more of a community.
If you live in Sevier County and you want friends, we do too. Hit us up.
if you're listening to this in Sevier County, I feel like for me, I worry, and I'm sure a lot of artists worry about AI, and I feel like we really need to create a culture where it's less cutthroat. Like, we're supporting each other. It's not such a competitive field, and we don't undersell ourselves, like we really play up the fact that we've put a lot of hard work into this craft, and yes, you could use AI, but you also could get something really genuine, and kind of just the rising tide lifts all ships mentality. I
Yeah.
want to see more of that.
That's a big thing for me is like I think something that should be taught to younger artists or designers or thing is know where your limit is and find people who are good that are past your limit.
Yeah.
Like I said, I can't draw by hand, so I'm going to refer to another illustrator.
You
and
gotta
I-
surround yourself
Yeah.
and be in a room full of people who are all better than you.
Yeah. Or that all of you together, there's nothing you can't do.
Yes.
So there's always someone in the team you can pivot to.
And for me personally, I'm so fortunate to have a full-time job
Yeah.
as an artist, with benefits and stuff. So when people approach me looking for freelance stuff, I want to outsource that to
Yeah.
other people that I know
Yeah.
because I just don't have creative energy left after
Yeah.
my day job. So
Is there anyone you would like to work with? Either one of you.
I need to think about it. You go first.
Man,
I went first
should've
last time. You
given
go
you-
first this time.
Okay, fine. I mean, I already work with an incredible team of people. We are all passionate about the park. We are all very dedicated, reliable. I'm really grateful to work with the people who I do. As far as like dream projects or whatever, I don't know. I mean, I work with the National Park Service. That's so cool already. Yeah, every time that I get to sort of work in closer proximity with them and sort of carry out a vision, I just want people to be able to enjoy national parks 200 years from now. I hope that kids will still be able to, go to the mountain streams and they still look the same way they do. And a lot of that is policy, which is out of my control, but, we're trying to create beautiful print goods that celebrate this place, and I hope that they'll still be around 200 years from now. So,
Okay.
yeah.
I mean, like Emma said, I have so many friends and I know so many people who are musicians that I like pinch myself that I get to, like, all of the rest of the Darlings, the other three Darlings, my bandmates, I cannot believe that I'm in a band with them. They are so fucking good. Okay. And I always feel like, what the fuck are you doing here? And I'm sure that each one of them thinks that too. And that's why we work. But also, like, my friends in the Filk community who, like, made my album with me, like, they're all incredible musicians. And I listen to so much music. There are always musicians out there where I'm like, I don't know if I would even necessarily want to work with them. I would just want to, like, be in a song circle with them and just, like, talk about the craft of songwriting, talk about our writing process, talk about songs we're working on. There are so many songwriters' brains I want to pick, or I just want to be a fly on a wall.
Okay.
And I mean, most any folk musician I listen to, I'm like, God, it would be so cool to sing with them or play in a circle with them or just hear them talk about their process.
I feel so lucky to live in an era where you can see on Instagram a process video of someone's piece of art. Like, just watching the decisions they make in real time is so cool.
Yeah.
That was a big part of, like, getting inspiration for working on the book was, okay, I'm going to be drawing, like, full scenes. I need to understand how people are making decisions about composition and lighting, and yeah, that was a huge help.
There's, I think probably my favorite musician of all time. Her name is Corinne Polwart. She's a Scottish singer-songwriter in the folk world. And Emma and I she was part of a show, a cellist, Sue Ali, had like a bunch of collaborators she worked with. And we got to go see that show when we were in Scotland earlier this year. And seeing my favorite musician in the world, like, sing live, it was just like 2 or 3 songs that she was part of. But, like, she combines, like, ecology and history and, like, activism and all of these things into her songwriting. And her brain is phenomenal.
How
And
do
I
you
would
spell that?
KARINE POLWART. She is a phenomenal musician, and I would love to, like, take a workshop taught by her or sit in a song circle with her and just talk about songcraft. Like, if I could, like, have dinner with a musician and just talk to them, it would be Corinne Polwart, followed closely by Joni Mitchell. But
I'm trying to. All right, we're in like hour 8 here.
edit it and post.
Yeah, I struggle. Oh my God, I may get taken to the cleaner. Fuck it, I've said worse things on here. I struggle with the Swifties. Because the Swifties, when all this shit.
Come to the right place.
Can I get out before you go hard in the paint? When all this, because I'm a sports guy. The Kelsey brothers, like Travis Kelsey, who she's dating now, my friend Hannah, who I've mentioned before, Hannah Minocchio, Snakes and Aces. Oh, I'm not wearing her shirt. Those books, half of this stack is going to my friend Hannah. She's the greatest. 5 foot tall Italian woman who could kick shit out of me. Like, the greatest part. I talk to her every day. She actually grew up and is the same age and was friends with Travis when Travis and Jason lived in Cleveland Heights. And she was like, they are actually the nicest people in the world. They are the greatest people in the world. Taylor, I would actually defend. I was like, Taylor is an incredible businesswoman.
Yes, she is an amazing businesswoman.
But
the
Swifties that I know are so aggressively, she is the greatest songwriter that's ever lived. I was like, not even close, not even by country mile. I was like, so I won't say Joni Mitchell, but here, let me say somebody who's close to my heart. Cannot hold a candle to Josh Ritter. Like Josh Ritter as a songwriter, like the Swifties are like, well, she wrote the song and she mentioned a scarf, and Jake Gyllenhaal wore a scarf in this movie, so she said,
"Shoot me in the face." With
so
a
whereas
shotgun.
like Josh
Jesus
Ritter,
Christ.
do you like Josh Ritter?
I've like heard of him, but I
Okay.
haven't listened to a lot of his stuff.
So he has a song called Folk Bloodbath, where it's all like inside baseball on the history of folk music. There's you some homework.
Okay.
It's the fucking best. And I'm like, that is, if you know it, it's even deeper. But if you just listen to the song, it's a great song. I was like, no, that's great songwriting. Like, some of my, like Lord Huron or Gregory Alan
That's Emma's favorite
Isakov.
band.
Oh, Lord.
One of my favorites.
They're from Michigan, so she's like,
Originally, yeah.
I saw them, part of their show. I was in Raleigh for an AIGA conference, and Red Hat, do you know Red Hat? Like the OS operating system?
Mm-mm.
A lot of people use it for email servers. It's based in Raleigh, and they have a free concert, like big ass venue downtown, open air. And we were there for the conference, and they had a free like Thursday night show. And it was Lord Huron. I was like, I fucking love Lord Huron. This is like
Nice.
2016.
Mm-hmm.
And the opening act was this new band who is just coming up called Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats.
Oh, shit.
Son of a bitch had
Yeah.
just hit the radio.
I remember
And
that.
they were but the person I was with kept bitching and was like, I'm just going to take a cab home. And I was like, Jesus Christ, I just want to see one of my favorite fucking bands. And I had to leave. And I was so pissed that I still haven't seen them. But you listen to Lord Huron, like I love all their albums, but every album has one song that I was like, this should be on like the Mount Rushmore. Like, it's so fucking good. Like, and it's not uncomfortable, but it's just like, so when I hear the Swifties talk about it, I was like, she's a great business person, but she's also kind of a mean girl.
Yeah.
And her fans are kind of mean girls.
I have so
But I am
many
also
issues with Taylor
I am
Swift.
also this. So anytime I say that, it's like, well, you're a dude. I was like, I don't give a shit. I'm
You
also
love music.
a fucking music obsessed
Yeah.
nerd. I was like, no. I was like, I will respect the shit out of her for being a business person. Fuck yeah, get that bag. I don't care. But
The second she made that music video for that song, like "You Need to Calm Down" or whatever, it was her and a bunch of like, you know,
The cast
pastel
of-
colored gays, the cast of Queer Eye, and this like cute little trailer park, and then everyone, the people who were coded as the bigots had missing teeth and were wearing flannels
Oh,
with like
cool.
misspelled signs.
it's because she's from Pennsylvania. She's not
But
from
no, she's from Nashville.
No. So that was the other thing. So I have never heard a Taylor Swift song from beginning to end, except for Teardrops on My Guitar. That I actually liked that song when it came out. I was like, oh, this is an interesting like take on country music.
I remember her like not really disliking her in that kind of beginning era when
Yeah.
I was in high school, but it was as she sort of gained such a huge following, but completely abstained from making any sort of like taking stances on literally anything when so much was at stake.
But she endorsed Kamala Harris yesterday.
God.
It's like, yeah. And somebody, I think it was Tennessee Holler, if you follow that dude, he was like, now do Gloria Johnson. It's like, because fuck Marsha Blackburn. Now do Gloria Johnson. You could say one thing and Gloria Johnson could potentially win.
It's
She
true.
won't.
Fucking ridiculous.
Because she needs to be a billionaire and
So I will
fly
say-
her private jet around everywhere.
There's a musician I love named Royal Wood. He's a dude out of Canada. He's got one album that's absolutely phenomenal, but he's on Spotify. There's this thing where they did get alternative weird people to do covers, and he did a cover of her song Lover, and it's beautiful, like his voice and everything. Oh my god, it's so good. I was listening to it today. I was like, this is what I need. This is like my Bob Dylan. This is like Bob Dylan. I need other people covering. Like, I know he's fucking a dickhead, but Ryan Adams did that weird album where he covered all of her songs, and there's one on there I was like, holy shit, he turned that into a Ryan Adams song, and it was Out of the Woods, Into the Woods, something like that. I was like, he changed it to where I like the song now. Like,
From my understanding, she had 2 really truly great albums with like Folklore and Evermore, and then like her most recent ones, I was just reading some of the lyrics and I was like, does she have an editor? Like, I was writing this in middle school thinking I was like the greatest writer to ever walk the earth, and this is like a woman in her 30s in her career as a billionaire being like, I'm so like misunderstood, and like,
so Folklore and
I'm going full
Evermore,
toxic right now.
because it was such a weird switch. I was like, I'm going to listen to this, and
I haven't listened to them,
but I listened to little bits. I was like, if I want to listen to Bon Iver, I will listen to Bon Iver. I don't need to listen to this. Here is my hottest, most aggressive take. I was waiting for it. I absolutely love with every fiber of my being Dolly Parton. I don't really like Dolly Parton's music. It's a little too polished. Her bluegrass, I remember her bluegrass album came out. I was like, fuck yeah. And I listened to it. I was like,
Shine.
it's too perfect. The whole album. I was like, it's too perfect. Bluegrass is great because it's imperfect. And the people can't, they sing in these weird harmonies, and they don't have Whitney Houston's voice. They don't also dial in, I was like, it's a little too perfect. And I feel like that's, with Taylor Swift, it's the same thing. It's like, this feels like AI. This feels like
It's
computer
too,
generated.
Like when songs are just like pitch corrected to the point of like there is no imperfection,
Yeah.
I'm no longer interested.
So in that last album, I remember when it dropped, not the latest one,
The tortured
not that one, the one right before it.
Midnights. We have 2 friends who are like obsessed with Taylor Swift,
Midnights.
and I have to mute them sometimes.
Midnight. It was Midnight.
Love You River, Love You Robbie. Sorry.
I remember when that album dropped, there were already like 3 sections of different songs that were trending on TikTok. And one of them, I was like, I swear to God, I think she wrote that song for TikTok. Because whatever it is, I was like, that sounds literally like, okay, what's cool on TikTok? I'm going to write that. And it was just like, it was fucked up. Sorry.
What she's done recently that I have been like, that's horrible, is like some other like female artist will release an album and Taylor will pull out some sort of like archive or whatever to block them from being #1.
So the
out
funniest
of
thing,
spite. And she's all like, I love and support all my girlfriends and other women. Like, no, you don't, bitch. You're a fucking billionaire who wants to be a billionaire at the cost of like everything else around you.
so I still get on Twitter because I have friends and I've very curated my follow. And there was an article and it was like Chappell Roan and Sabrina Carpenter are both in the top 5. And some dude retweeted that and put, get ready for Taylor to drop a song. And he literally came back to that tweet like 3 days later. He's like, holy shit, it happened.
Yep.
And it was just like, this is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, you don't have to be Nostradamus to predict that at this point.
Whereas
And
on
it's
the
like, what else do you need?
whereas on the flip side, I'll give her credit. I actually like Olivia Rodrigo because I like
she's
how her
great.
music is so different. You listen to one album and it sounds like a mixtape, and I think there's an artist I really like called Samia. I keep pointing
She's
at
great.
shit, and I'm just like, but it sounds like a mixtape because it's like I don't have to just do pop. I don't have to just do whatever. And she worked with a lot of artists where they would record her. It is fucking great, and I actually love Maya Hawke's music.
Oh my God. I love Blush. That is
Yeah.
like one of my favorite albums.
So-
she's great.
Olivia Rodrigo, Chapel Roan opened for her,
Mm-hmm.
and then Chapel was playing somewhere, or Olivia was playing somewhere, and she brought her. I was like, oh yeah, they still like one another.
Yeah,
Like
they're
that's fucking
buds.
awesome. That's
Yeah.
fucking awesome. That's why I want to see more.
And like Taylor's whole squad or whatever
Yeah.
the fuck that was blew up because she's a messy bitch.
Well, I've got.
Sorry. People are gonna cancel me. You can find me at Lauren Oxford Music. Come yell at me in DMs. I don't
will
care.
say, so the one friend I had that is the most obsessed with Taylor started like revisionist history about like who she likes and who she doesn't like.
Oh, there are fully people out there who's like they have a conspiracy board of like Taylor Swift is actually gay.
No, her thing is like when I'm trying to think how to say this without saying this. She is like a little sister, and I would take her to shows because she didn't have anybody, and I was like, "Yeah, you're like my little sister." So I'd take her to shows, and I'd be like, afterwards, I'm like, "What'd you think of that?" I took her to Tallest Man on Earth, and she's like, "That was amazing. I kind of want to marry him." Like that kind of thing. The first time I saw him, and then he came again. I was like, "Hey, do you want to go to that show?" And she's like, "Oh, I didn't like that show." I was like, "Yeah, you did." And then I realized in looking at what music she listened to, I was like, oh, you listen to Taylor Swift, you listen to Boy Genius, you listen to The National because Desner produced I was like, everything you listen to has to have a
Anything
tie.
Jack Antonoff touched.
To has to have a tie to Taylor. And if it doesn't have a tie to Taylor, she's like, oh no, that's not worth my time. It's like, you were out of
it's
your
like
fucking
genuinely kind of scary.
Yeah.
Like
Brainworm.
Cultish.
That
It's
brainworm,
cultish.
cultish rabbit
Yeah.
hole.
Whereas, and I told her, this is, oh my God, she's never going to listen to this, so it's fine. She's the one I went to see Boy Genius with. And she fussed at me afterwards. She was like, why didn't you cry throughout the show? And I was like,
I'm going to police your emotions.
Yeah. So there's one of the Lucy Dacus song, the We're in Love, fucking breaks me. I love that song. And I cried during that song, but she was staring at the stage and I got over it. I cried. I was like, I did during We're in Love. And she was like, that's not enough. I was like,
Wow.
but
To go back to an earlier question,
yeah.
I would love for the Starlight Darlings and Boy Genius to just like hang out informally and just like sing songs
Yeah.
together. I think that'd be cool as hell.
I
and
will-
not in a weird Stan way, and like a we're all musicians on this level.
I will say, out of the three of them,
Lucy's my favorite.
Same.
Phoebe is the lowest. Like, I think out of the three I think Julian is an insanely talented musician. And
Yeah,
I've loved,
she can play
I've loved
fucking
Julian
everything.
I saw her at the Bijou, and she was fucking, that's one of the best shows I've ever been to. I think Lucy Dacus is the best songwriter out of the three of them.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know. I used to like Phoebe, and for whatever reason, I just soured to her, and I'm just like, but them as a group, I was like, yeah, I still love them as a group, but I am more Julian and I think Lucy is one of the fucking best songwriters now.
absolutely.
It's insane.
And
And her
as-
albums are the most consistent.
Historian is like
Yeah.
a top 5 album
Yeah.
for me ever of all time. And also as an alto, like her voice
Yeah.
just that's my range. Like we're the low singing queens.
Historian and home video just felt so much more relatable to me. Of
Yeah.
like, oh, I could picture myself like being friends with this person in high school or whatever.
Yeah.
In just a way that feels so much more approachable to me.
I mean, genuinely the production on Phoebe's albums is fucking phenomenal. It is incredible. There's nothing that sounds like Phoebe except everything now sounds like Phoebe because like that's the sound that people want. And she just
Those are-
has so many clever lines and turns of phrase that like every time I hear them I'm like, God, I wish I'd written that. That's so clever.
Those are the two I would probably actually love to have on the podcast, and I think they would have a lot of fun. Phoebe seems sometimes to get in her own, like, I don't want to talk to anybody. Not Phoebe.
And, like, valid. Julian?
Julian.
Yeah.
But whereas
Respect
I feel
that.
like Lucy would just be laughing this entire time, and it would be a joy. Good sweet Jesus. Okay. We've gone so.
Are there other
many-
questions?
Two more.
Okay.
One of them's a big one at the end that hopefully you won't cry, but it's okay. Won't be the first. Won't be the last. Do you know what you'd like to do in the next 10 years?
Whew.
Well, we talked about like in 5 years if we're still here kind of in.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about how my decision to move here to East Tennessee was like a total spur of the moment thing, and I've gotten so much out of it.
Yeah.
But I also, the park is so congested with people. I feel like I'm kind of losing patience.
Living in
with
Sevier County, there's Rod Run happening right now. Fucking Christ.
Are you going to the event tomorrow night?
I am.
I am not, because we only got 2 tickets.
Yeah, I saw the name tags for 2
Yeah.
other people. That
And
are
I was
coming,
just,
but-
and Jane had emailed us and was like, oh yeah, and Rod Run's happening. And both of our guys were like,
Nope.
fuck. Because one lives in Morristown. He was like, it's legit going to take me at least 2 hours to get there.
God.
And I was just like, and you live in Morristown. Holy shit, man.
Yeah, I mean, where we are in Sevierville, I can't get to Townsend without going through Pigeon Forge, so that's going to be a fucking nightmare. Anyway, yeah, when I think about, like, kind of where I want to spend, where we want to spend our 30s, I don't know if we want to be here forever. Lauren grew up in Nashville. She hates hot weather. But we also love the Appalachian Mountains and don't really want to, like, move too far away from, you know, that mountain range. So I don't know. I mean, I want to keep doing art, obviously. Sometimes I feel like I'm a little bit boxed in my career just because there's stuff that's got to get done. You got to move on to the next project. You don't really have time to, like, stop and redo something if you're not happy with it. So there is a sort of sense of, like, plateauing, I guess, in your art skills. But part of that is that I also need to be seeking out, like, more resources and even, like, events to attend and that kind of thing, just to kind of freshen it up a little bit. But I don't know. I guess I just want to, like, experience different things. That's a very generic answer, but
No. I mean, no offense, but I keep referring to the age. That's what this age is for.
yeah.
Is getting out there and trying different things. That's the only way I stay young. It's like, I'm going to die one day, so just go out and it's all gravy.
My very immediate goal is that I want to learn more about t-shirt printing because I feel like I've gotten burned a few times trying to make art for t-shirts, like, you know, 4-color printing versus screen printing and that kind of thing. And I actually am going to Borderland Tees on Tuesday
Shit.
to watch what they do, and it's a Wild Ones plant related thing. But
Well,
yeah, I'm looking forward
tell
to
Jenny
that.
and Bob that you know me.
Okay, I will.
They love me at that. So I actually thought about, like, I've been thinking about, I mentioned, like, the illustrators group. I was like, maybe I need to start scheduling, like, tours. Would more people like
Ooh,
to
that'd
do
be cool.
Borderland?
Absolutely.
Like,
Shit, I'd go to that.
yeah, like Borderland. I will give them a plug here. They are the greatest fucking people in the world. Jenny and Bob are the absolute best, and what they're doing. Do you know about Borderland?
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
like, but do you know the, like, story?
I have read the story on their website. I don't
Okay.
think you're familiar.
So
Well, we could talk about it later.
they employ. It's very short. It's one sentence. They employ homeless people and pay them a living wage to help get them off the street. That's all you need to know. And Jenny is Reverend Jenny, but they print all the pride shit, like the most open and greatest and humble.
like what Christians should be.
Yeah. And Bob is the most humble motherfucker on the planet. Like, and he has been doing t-shirt printing for like 50 or 60 years.
Yeah, and their entire model, they've asked me to provide a design for them because the IAMS gift shop will sell shirts that they print, and then Borderland will give part of the profits to, you know, a cause they want to support.
And you'll get to see their butterfly garden, which
Oh,
is
yeah, I've
awesome.
seen it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're the absolute, oh god damn it, I love them. To where I actually have been workshopping, I want to do a hoodie just so I can give them money. I was like, but I got to figure out some, oh my god, what I have planned, I do not think you all will like, but that's okay. Because I'm the marketing brain. It's like, I got to do something that will actually sell. Because I'm going to fucking pay for these things, so I got to figure out something that
No, that's important.
will cover my cost.
My marketing story is that I tried to get a marketing minor in college, and I took one class and immediately dropped it that day.
Yeah. Okay, 10 years.
So I currently have a part-time job at the bed and breakfast Emma mentioned earlier, where her mom and stepdad got married. Hip and Steel's Mountain View Inn in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. It's a good job. It's stress-free. It's like you know, a bunch of like older retirees who come in. I go in, I like bake a dessert, I set the tables, I entertain the guests. It's a really great job. And since Vern is an artist himself, he totally understands and empathizes with like, I need to take a week off because I'm driving 14 hours to Kansas. And he's like, okay, cool. Yeah. So there's a lot of flexibility with my schedule. Vern and his wife Lisa, the innkeepers and owners, are like in their late 60s to mid 70s, and they just had their first grandbaby. They had the inn on the market a couple years ago, and someone was interested in buying it. And like when they were threatened with that, they were like, no, actually, we don't want to sell. But it's going to happen.
That's awesome.
It's going to happen sooner rather than later. And then once that is gone, I genuinely don't know. It's like I need to be doing enough music stuff to where when the inn is sold, I have something already in place, because if not, I am fucked. So like my goal for the next 10 years is to really just like go balls to the wall with music and like trying to make this somehow in the age of streaming like a viable career. Like I just want to be able to buy groceries and like put gas in my car and like maybe, I don't know, go to the dentist sometimes, or like go to I just went to the eye doctor for the first time in 3 years because I'm like squinting to see now. It was like $300 to get a new pair of glasses. Like,
I go to eyeglasses store. I want to get 2 pairs for $100. Like, oh man. Have you thought about doing a Patreon?
I have, and I know that Patreon has fairly recently updated its terms, or like something with the Apple Store, like they're taking like an even larger cut.
Are
like
they really?
if you subscribe to someone's Patreon, like on the phone app, like Apple gets like a 30% cut of it or something. Okay. And also like having ADHD, a big thing for me is if there's a big task, it becomes this massive impenetrable ball of like all of this upfront work to be done to make it happen. Like the idea of like having to structure tiers and like figure out what that is and do all of that is like, that's like my kryptonite.
Okay. Here, I'm going to offer. There's Patreon. There's now Substack. I
There's
have help.
Coffee or Ko-Fi, whatever that is.
A lot of people do it. If you want help, I will help. I'm not kidding. Like, and I hear you saying that, but I've also done it so much that it's like, oh no, here's how you do it.
Well, the thing also is, it's a monthly thing, so you have to actually have something every month to give people. And like, I'm lucky to get 2 songs a year.
You would be amazed at how many people don't. But also on the same, I am a backer to musicians, and I see what they do, and trust me, if you want to talk about it, I will talk to you about it. Yeah, I'm not kidding. Like, because I know it feels that way. As you can see, I have my own issues with jumping in on things, syncs. Like, but trust me when it comes to that, like I have helped so many people.
My impression is that most people just want to support you, and they don't necessarily care if every now and then there's like a deadline missed or whatever.
Here's another thing. You have a positive in that you have an illustrator for a wife to where you could make merch or stickers.
I have someone who eats tasks like candy.
Yeah. That you could make
something that makes me balk. She's like, "Oh, boop, done," and I'm like, "How the fuck do you do
like
that?"
Sticker app. Do not use Sticker Mule.
No,
we are full
never.
on anti-Sticker Mule. I think we talked about that. At least one.
All my homies hate Sticker Mule. Fuck Sticker Mule.
So, but there are ways to do stuff like that to where it's like, oh, this reward this month. I'll tell you, I'm going to do a movie podcast to where my deliverables. I said. I'll do an extra podcast every week, just doing like movie news. Whenever I do this, I've got it all mapped out. But as far as a reward, once a year, you get a box. And my thought was, at the end of the year or sometime in the year, you get a box with 12 items that I've personally curated for you, including.
That's cool.
I've started collecting VH. I know I keep pointing at stuff that y'all can't see, and I apologize. I start collecting videotapes and VHS tapes, and my thought is to flip them over and on the back side, kind of like sand it down and do a painting or a drawing on the back, so cool. And that will be part of the 12 items.
I don't know how many subscribers you have, but that sounds like a lot of work.
Well, talk about it later.
I foresee like once if I ever have a dark room that my dad helps me build, like I can have like prints and stuff as part of like rewards. I can incorporate other creative things I do.
The aforementioned Rachel Reese, she goes to a used bookstore. I pay $5 a month for her Patreon. Shayla McDaniel. She's a local.
Yep.
Shayla is the fucking best.
She's so cool. I love her.
She's super talented.
Yeah.
Shayla's Patreon.
She's been at a lot of the music stuff recently.
But it's once a month. Rachel would go to a used bookstore, find the old books that they're giving away for free, and rip off the front cover and use that as a postcard. And once a month, she would send me a postcard, and then once a month, she would post a cover song of the month, and that was it. And the rest were just blog updates. So that's what I'm saying.
I know there are options.
Yeah,
it's just a matter of like
Yeah.
sitting my ass down and like doing the thing, which is very hard for me.
That is a really good idea, though, is that if you don't come up with an original song, like do a cover that you know everyone will love.
Yeah. And you can talk, you can do almost like a mini podcast and talk about why that song means so much to you that you record it. See? I'm telling you, I got faith in you.
No, I know.
And I will gladly help.
It's possible.
Like, I'm not trying to put myself, but I do marketing 95% of the time.
I'll hit you up, bro.
And I'm happy to help.
But yeah.
I will say something off mic that is fucking hilarious. I'm going to write it down. That's fucking hilarious.
But yeah, that's my plans for the next 10 years is to just like get a little more stable with like figure out how to book shows and like play more and just be doing more things musically that like put gas in my car.
Yeah. Do you know Adeem? Do y'all know Adeem?
We saw their show at the Bird and the Book.
Oh, yeah.
And like
If
I briefly talked to them, but
I
they're so cool and I love their music.
I
And
can
their wife
connect to
rules.
where I'm sure that they would have y'all open somewhere.
I very cringily at their show at the Bird and the Book, I had like just gotten my CDs and I was like, gave them a CD and I was like, hey, if you ever need an opener, here's my CD, and left. And I was like, why the fuck did I do that?
Yeah. You're lucky I wasn't there because I would have grabbed Adeem by the neck and, hey man, you need to let her open for you. Like I pick on Adeem like crazy.
I feel like they like that.
Yeah.
Talk about a power couple.
Yeah,
Like their
like, wow.
wife being a illustrator.
High five, Hanny.
Yeah.
Emma has the possum shirt of the Sun Sphere.
Yeah.
Like, what a classic.
All right, here we go. Last question. If you could talk to the 14-year-old version of yourself, what would you tell them? 5 minutes later.
Oh, come on. You gotta sit with that one.
I know. I'm just giving you shit.
Just edit out our silence.
I think that's the point.
You go first.
I don't know. When I look at the path I've taken, there's not a whole lot I would change. I think I would just want to tell her to like stick with it. Trust your gut. You know? People always say like you need to be in the right time. You need to be in the right place at the right time. And I think the way you make that work is you go to the right place and you wait for the right time.
Okay.
So I might have more to say after Lauren goes.
Okay.
It's going to be ping pong.
Yeah. Paddle pong. Back
Bring it
and forth.
all the way back to the beginning.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
We love a throwback.
7 hours later.
I would tell 14-year-old Lauren, like, in the next few years, you're gonna realize and discover a lot of things about yourself that hearing them right now would make you scream and cry. You're gonna be a lot happier. It's gonna be a lot better. Your mommy issues are never gonna go away. Get used to living with those. You're almost 30. They're still there. I would just say, like, go easy on yourself. Like, don't be so hard on yourself. Don't beat yourself up so much. Just, like, you're a good kid and you try really hard. And even if other people don't see that, you being able to see that in yourself, like, let that be enough. And you will eventually, if you follow that, you will find the right people and the most amazing people who do see that and who encourage that. And family is who you find and who you make your family.
All right, do you got any follow-up before we shut it down?
You can tell that one of us is a poet. Yeah, I think I would say, have faith in the fact that you will find the place where you feel good about what you're doing. Don't try to force yourself into something that doesn't come easily to you. And have faith that even though you're not the best at something, that you will find the place where you're appreciated for your unique combination of skills. Like, I think I spent a lot of time in college kind of lamenting the fact that I wasn't the best at, this certain style of illustrating. But now I have a job where even though I don't feel like I'm the best at XYZ, I still bring to the table, like, I got a naturalist certification from the Institute at Tremont in the park. And one of the things that I try to bring to my work is that I really care about, like, getting it right from a science perspective. I never want, like, a biologist to look at something I drew and be like, that's not quite right. So I hope that what I can bring to the table at my job is, like, paying attention to that kind of thing and being faithful to kind of the science that we're trying to convey, I guess. So all of that to say that, like, you will find your niche, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I would also say, like, in my life, more than anything else that I wanted to do or wanted to be or wanted to dream, I wanted to find a person and be in love and be loved. And I would tell 14-year-old me, like, hey, that dream, you realize it. You find it. Like, it's not a boy. I know that's a shock to you right now. Prepare for that, but you're going to do it. So just maybe acknowledge that now and you'll save yourself a bit of heartache later. But yeah.
How do I follow that up?
All right.
You don't.
We ended with, I think we were tied for head shakes at the end of this.
Yeah.
With that last one, I think we officially tied. All right. Thank you all for being on. Yeah. I power across the room.
Thank you for having us.